Hey, salutations, everyone, and welcome back to the season 9 episode number 2 of the Timeless Gamer Show, where the games in our bodies may grow out of date, but our gaming experiences will forever remain timeless. Your gaming podcast show brought to you by, hey, ROI. We are ROI now. Retromancy, hello, Retromancy for life. And this is a very special episode that we have for you guys for this evening because we were fortunate enough to be blessed by the good fellas at the BITMAP Books, allowing us to review some of their publications, some of their products, their books for this episode, and we have some things to say. We were able to we were able to get around those said books, and for this panel that we have right here, we got Sir JDM.
Hello, guys. Good evening, good morning, and welcome back to Timeless Gamer Show. And tonight we'll be talking about the bitmap books that were given to. We were tasked to give like a short review, and I was asked to read about the point and click games and also the NES and SNES.
All
So stay
right,
tuned, guys.
all right. Thank you for that, Sir JDM, and of course we got Banyagan native Sir Joe.
Oh, sorry, was that me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. My headphone, my headset went offline for a moment. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are. This is Joel Baklit of the Manyaga Native Twitch and Kick page. We are doing a review of something a little bit off of our usuals nowadays because you normally do video games. Today we are doing reviews of video game books, ladies and gentlemen. I've always been a book lover myself. It was my first passion before video games, so this particular episode is especially special for me because it relates to my two favorite passions, books and video games. So let's hang around with us and we'll talk all about it. Back to you, Joe.
All right, I have heard that, Sir Joel, and of course, returning back to the show from Chicago, Illinois, Sir
Hey,
Joe Mar.
hey, Jomerald here. So, I'm gonna just gonna make it this sweet and short. This is gonna be an interesting topic, so I would suggest you guys will stick on this channel and watch it and listen to what we're gonna be saying. It's a first time for me, and hopefully it's gonna be a first time for you guys that you're gonna see a review on this kind of stuff.
But before anything else, looking at the chats, the guys from Bitmap Books are already in attendance. Thanks very much, guys. It
Hello,
says,
sirs.
thank you so much for this, guys. No, we're the ones thanking you guys for this opportunity because we love anything video game related, particularly retro video game related. And Bitmap Books is a producer of high quality books from our quick review of it, from having a look at it. And before we get into too much detail, let's give it back to Joe.
All right. Thank you for that, Sir Joel and Sir Joe Mar. And so before we head to the books, a little bit, let's we can probably start to show it a few of our personal anecdotes in regarding video game literature.
Mm.
And for all of us growing up, especially back in the 80s and 90s, all we had back then were magazines.
Hmm.
And because there's no reviews or previews of those kind of sorts, there's no regulations in regarding with video games that were coming out, especially with the clot of the Atari games, especially with the computer games of the late 80s and the early 90s. All we had were magazines at best. So there was not much of a like a collective compendium of all those sorts of video games, unless you're going to talk to those people who are in the know. So how about Sir Joel? What can you add in regards into with video game literature back in those days?
I'm back in the day. I mean, heck, I'm 51 years old. I do remember the advent of video games and video game literature. Books. I wasn't there for the printing, for the invention of the printing press project of Gutenberg press, but I was there during the early days of seeing cheat code books. Books were
Mm.
published way back when that had compilations of cheats and little tricks and secrets and everything like that. Those were exciting for me to read as well. Also, there were quite a number of fiction books related to video games, like the Worlds of Power books by Nintendo,
Yes.
expounding on stories with Castlevania, Blaster Master, things like that. Those were a ton of fun to read as well. Another thing that happened way back when, I'm sure Jomar is going to relate to this one because he and I talked about it a little bit when way back when was the game books, the choose your own adventure type of game books, like Dungeons and Dragons, like the
Mm.
Greyhawk
Yes.
Chronicles, like the Interplanetary Spy series, the Wizards, Warriors, and You. That was about as close to video gaming in book form that I had encountered way back when. So it was not, there was no compendium like Joe says of a particular system or a particular set of video game styles, because of the fact that in the early days there was so much to cover, there were so many different angles to come at it, and it was just so broad. And I'm really appreciative of Bitmap Books for coming out with books that actually hyper focus on certain things, like the NES, like the SNES, the Mega Drive. I think there's also the PC Engine book, and they have art books actually that show video game covers exclusively of certain systems, like Atari. I mean, I'm 51 years old. You'll have to pardon my brains for not working as well as as it used to be. But yes, Bitmap Books really came out with a solid set of material for people like me who just love reading books.
Right. Thank you for that, Sir Joel. And how about Sir Jomar? Sir Joel mentioned mentioned you specifically about this. So what was your experience before, and how things progressed now in terms of video game literature?
Oh, what can I say? Tito Joel already said
You're
everything.
welcome.
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, well, it's exciting, like Tito Joel said. Um, we don't have commercials about video games before. We don't have the internet. We do have the internet, but it's not. You don't find it there before. Um,
Yes.
you go to a store or a newspaper stand, and then you find a magazine, and then you flip it, and then that's where you're gonna be blown away. A game that you never heard before or seen before, you'll see it right there while standing, and you're gonna be like, I want this, and then you're standing there, you're smiling. Um, Everything was exciting. Like Tito Joel said, about those what you call that, Tito Joel? Choose your own adventure.
Yes,
Mhm.
those game books,
Yeah.
choose your own
So
adventure
yeah,
books. Hmm.
yeah. The magazines are exciting as those.
Hmm.
Um, I've been reading Wizard Warriors and News since I
Oh
was
yeah.
like a small kid.
Ooh.
Um, every page that you turn, every page that you read, you'll never know what you're gonna get. Like a
Mm.
box of chocolate, like what? For
How very
goodness sake!
Forrest Gump of you.
So
Right, right, right.
yeah, the yeah, I have nothing to say about the past about the magazine. It's just really amazing. It's amazing. It's an amazing era that you just go there, flip the book, see what you need to see, and then get surprised. That's it.
Mm.
All right, thank you for that, Sir Jomar. And how about Sir JDM? Because Sir JDM was overseas when he was younger before, so I'm not
Yes.
sure how was his experience in regarding with gaming literature. But most likely, um, you know how gaming magazines before, like flipping those pictures and what the gaming magazine mentioned about those games, sometimes it kind of gets you hyped about the game. And then when you receive the game,
Yeah.
then you experience it for the first time yourself.
Mm.
It's a little bit underwhelming. Maybe they overhyped it a bit. So JDM, what say you?
For me, I've experienced reading not exactly books but game magazines like um was it Next Generation? It's a different book from the UK. I mean magazine. I've also read old books in the library that has this computer and about PC hardware. They
Right.
have Ultima books.
Oh.
Yeah. Uh, I think that's the reason why I got interested to PC gaming is because of those magazines that I saw in the school library.
Mm.
And also I discovered gaming magazines like what do you call that? EGM. I had the EGM.
EGM, you got EGM, you got Game Pro. Game Pro's one. What's the other one?
Yeah.
Electronic Gaming Monthly. What are the
Mm.
other?
Oh,
What are
there's
the other major ones?
well, there's actually
Yeah, there's
different ones like Computer Gaming World. I do remember Game Informer. Shoot,
game.
there was a ton. There was a ton of video game magazines from back in the day, and honestly, I think PlayStation even had its own too,
Yeah,
I mean,
and
they
PSN.
had their they
Nintendo.
had yeah they had their own Nintendo Power. Nintendo
Nintendo
Mm.
Power, of
Power,
course.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nintendo, Sega
Mm.
Ages, of course. Sega. Oh, and those magazines from the UK.
Mm.
Uh, Sir Dan and Sir Viraj will know the answer to that one. I forgot which magazines those were. I want to say Popular Mechanics, but no, something machines, something
Mm.
Mean Machines. I think was it?
I think so. Yeah. I wish we had Dan or Viraj here. They could
Yeah,
provide the point of view of people from across the pond, like we
yeah,
kind of say here. But
Yeah.
yeah, in general, the magazines were all over. Even the Philippines. Even
Yeah.
if I remember
yeah.
correctly, even the Philippines had one or two magazines back then.
Um,
Well, it wasn't exclusively video
forgot.
game
Very
magazines.
short lived. I
Yeah.
remember those.
Yeah.
Yes, they. I think they were licensed from magazines from abroad. But yeah, we
Right.
had a few video game magazines in the
Mhm.
Philippines as well. Hmm.
And also, I think that's also the reason why I learned English is
Mm,
because we have English subjects during elementary. Then I also read books in the library.
mm.
And then I discovered these gaming magazines. And then I remember getting a fighting fantasy book.
Oh
It's a
yeah,
game book.
mhm.
I forgot the name.
Yeah,
Warlock or Wizard
yeah.
in
Warlock of Firetop
this.
Mountain. Hmm.
Yes, that one. I remember
Yes.
having that because back then my cousin and I used to read that book. Then there's this story that you need to choose from it will give you like a setting, then
Mm.
it will have you choose to turn to page 5 or
Oh yeah, I
turn to
remember
page
those.
Yeah,
21.
like
Then
Mm.
you
Wizard Warriors. That's like
Yeah.
Yes.
Wizard Warriors,
Oh,
and then you have to choose.
depending on your actions. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
but
Mm.
I remember
what we
those.
did what we did back then is we tried to like take a glance at the next page, then try to see if it's a bad or
Oh
If, it, if
yeah.
it's go,
good
if it's
description.
going to be better, if it's going to be better for you, then go. If it's going to be
Yeah.
worse, then go
Yes,
back.
So
I remember.
Oops, you.
so that means you're using a Konami code, right?
Oh yeah.
Yes,
You're that's
or a game
basically
shark or a
cheating,
game
guys.
shark.
You don't do that.
Yeah.
It ruins the fun.
Then I started collecting just recently some game guides.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I had Oblivion here. I don't know
Mm.
where I placed it, but it's there
Mm.
somewhere. And the most recent guidebook that I have was I think it was Microsoft Flight Combat Flight
Mm.
Simulator. I'm
Oh,
not
okay.
sure the title, but it's a combat flight simulator. So it's like a
Mm.
spin-off of the Microsoft Flight Simulator that they had.
Mm.
All right. Thank you for that, Sir JDM. And since we got Sir JDM already here, can you tell us who in the hell are those people down there at the chat?
All right, so let's go ahead and read the chats here. We have Sir Remel Bencilio of Core Gundam Place. He says, "Good evening, TG fam." And also we have Sir Raymond John Orendes of Studio.ph. He
Woo!
said, "Thank you, BITMAP Books." And the graphics of the books was indeed good. Yeah, actually, it's quite colorful, if you ask me.
Mm.
And also, we have Daniel P. Dignodice of
Sir
Mhm.
Dan
Dandice
Dice.
Gaming. Yo, Timeless Gamers. Hello, hello. Dandice. And we also have Marlon Hurtado Eliscupides, who says
Hi,
game
Sir Marlon.
magazines and game manuals have superb graphics. Yeah, that's the closest thing that you can have of getting those game books, because the game manuals itself, in my experience, back in the when we have those big box PC games and even those PS1 games, we have those manuals that looks like a mini novel that you can read the backstory of each characters or the story of the game.
All
And
right.
we also
Oh,
have Jerlyn Alice San Agustin in the chat. Hello, welcome
Mm.
Miss Honoka's
99.
here.
Hello, Miss Honoka.
I think that's all the people that we have right now, and we're looking
Mm.
All right.
forward to your
All right.
gaming book experience in the chats.
Absolutely,
All
yes.
right. Thank you for that, Sir JDM, and to all of you guys, ladies and gentlemen, who are joining us in the chat right now. You can still share this stream as we go on. And yeah, so how about introducing our patrons for this episode, which is Bitmap Books. So, what is the story? I mean, who is Bitmap Books?
Mm.
So there they are, and so Bitmap Books was established in 2014. It was founded by Sir Sam Dyer. Sam Dyer actually was the one who coordinated with Sir Joel, and he was generous enough to give us three sets of PDF samples of the books, namely the NES Compendium, the
Mhm.
SNES Compendium, and the Click and Point Games Compendium.
Yes. Mhm.
And with that in mind, Sir Sam had this vision that he wanted to create and publish the highest quality, most visually splendid gaming books ever produced.
Mhm.
And according to our eyes, when we have these samples, and yeah, uh, uh, although we haven't really checked other publications, I
Oh, I
cannot
have.
say for,
I
yeah,
have.
I mean,
Honestly, I would say that this
go Sir
is
Joel, go.
the yeah, let's put it this way. I have had the opportunity to have a look at other publications, and Bitmap Books honestly ranks way up there as some of the highest quality stuff I've ever seen. I've had comparisons with other publishers. The closest that I can say when it comes to the comparison of these books, they come as close to the actual game guides published by the actual companies themselves, because the highest quality game guides being published by companies like hardcover game guides, full color spreads, absolute information and details and everything laid out in their books. You can find the same thing here, but in a much more visually appealing format. In a way, this is a kind of the visual compendium is like a video game magazine that we used to read way back when, but amped up to 1,000, because this is the stuff that you would want to sit down with and read for hours on end. You know how you used to read video game magazines back then, maybe for an hour or two.
Mhm, mhm.
These kinds of books, the Bitmap books, are the kind of books that you can sit down and just get lost in visually and in terms of your memory for hours to come. Heck, if you had a kid along with you, if you have your son or daughter with you, you can sit them down and show this is how things were back then. This is the next best thing to actually having a video game playthrough with your son or daughter right next to you. The Bitmap Books quality is top notch. Honestly,
Mm.
I've compared it to other publishers, and it's amazing. Honestly, this is kind of stuff that you would place in your library, show off to guests, and maybe even hand down to
Mhm.
future generations. It's that good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just to
Yep.
to
Yes, Sir
to add on
Joe,
to
go,
Joe
go, go.
was saying, it's like, yeah, I never did a comparison on modern books, but I did a comparison on nostalgic books or
Mm.
publications. This is, I don't know, guys, if you know Schrodinger's cat, if you have an
Mm.
idea about
Schrodinger's cat.
Schrodinger's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's an expression that both things can be, can be two things on the same time.
Mhm.
Yep.
So this is my Schrodinger's cat, because this one is like, it's modern,
Mhm.
but at the same time it's also nostalgic.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
it's
Right.
like, go ahead.
So for those people who don't know the philosophical concept of the Schrodinger's cat, so
Hmm.
imagine there's a box,
Uh-huh.
and there's a glass of poison in there,
Mhm.
ready to break. You put a
Mhm.
cat
Uh-huh.
in there and close the box. Do you think the cat is alive or
Or
dead?
dead.
So that's the concept of Schrodinger's cat. So you don't know
Yeah.
if the poison will get to the cat, or the poison will stay enclosed in there,
Uh,
which the cat will survive. So we don't know unless we open the box. So
Mhm.
that's
that's
what
why
Sir Jomo is talking about here.
yeah, that's why it becomes, it's both dead and alive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's true.
Oh.
Mhm.
So yeah, so this is the kind of modern publication that I would put on my man cave, like a retro man cave, or
Mm.
a museum, my like a personal museum. This is
Right?
what I'm gonna be putting on a bookshelf. Why? Because when I saw it, if some people will see it, they will say, "Is this old or this new?" Because this is new, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Sir JDM.
For me, I've read the books. I find it very colorful. It's well designed, and then I had fun reading the most especially the point and click games, because I remember those games that I played in the 90s, and it really is a nostalgic trip. And it's not just it's not just like the graphics or the design. It's also informative because they were able to get in touch with they were able to interview the most of the uh, prolific developers back in the 90s, like David Fox, Mr. Allo of
Mm.
Leisure Suit Larry. And
Oh yeah. Mm.
it's it's not just nostalgic, it's informative, and it can appeal to, if I was a kid, it would appeal to me because of the colors and the design. But it would also appeal to me as an adult because it's very you can learn so much from the gaming history just by reading those books. And it, even if you're not you did not live those days, for example, you were born in the 2000s or 2010s, uh, it will when you read the book, you will have information, or you will be able to live the what were happening in the past, the gaming history that happened during those days in the 80s and the 90s. So it's
Mm.
really well recommended.
All right. Thank you for that, Sir JDM. And a very good summarization from all of our panels here. And just like Sir Joel, I like video games and I like history, and I also like video game history.
Mm.
And if I cannot get it online, so I mean we got YouTube videos here and there, but unless it's a very like a very specific like a game genre or a very specific niche, not a lot of people or a lot of YouTubers out there do really extensive research in regarding with the topic that they're talking about. With the bitmap books, you don't have to do that because they did the research for you. All
Mm.
right. I mean, uh, so I spoke with Sir Dan before because I gave Sir Dan and Sir Viraj a couple some of the samples that Bitmap Books gave us, and they have some shit to say in regarding with the research said by Bitmap Books. But to each its own. What I
Mm.
like about their opinions is that because they themselves have
Mm.
their own maybe it's because of the European experience that they can contradict some of the bitmap books claims in their publications.
Mm.
But I would say I would give bitmap books some credit here because they really did their research. They really have search for collaborators. They did interviews with developers, video game publishers, and creators as well.
Mm.
In creating these books that they had in that they have in their current inventory here. So let's get on to it. So like we mentioned before, Bitmap Books gave us three PDF copies of their some of their sample some of
Mm.
their inventory. So we got your NES, SNES, and your clicking point. So we will start first with the NES because hey,
Mhm.
as Filipinos, we grew up with the NES, aka the Famicom. So let's get into it.
All right. So,
Yep, go on
mm,
ahead, Sir Joel and
all
Sir
right.
Jomar.
So let me just pop this down for a moment. The thing about the NES compendium, let me just bring this up so that I'll beg the audience's indulgence and of course Bitmap Books' permission because we are going to be showing excerpts of the books that they provided to us. For those of you who are interested in how the books look like, please check out our our video podcasts on Facebook and on YouTube. You guys listening in on the audio portion of the podcast over at places like Spotify or Google Podcasts, you guys are missing out because the visual compendium of the bitmap books is amazing and they very much deserve a look. All right, so the basic idea of the visual compendium, again, like JDM says, it's a colorful presentation. It's the kind of look that when you pull out of the bookshelf, it is
Mhm.
it already attracts your eyes. It draws your eyes in. It shows right off the bat these characters that
The
I'm
iconic
absolutely sure,
characters,
yes, I'm
yes.
absolutely
Yes.
sure
Mhm.
you grew up with. And
The-
yes, yeah, who was about to say JDM?
It looks like a character selection from Tekken,
Oh, in a
actually,
way, yes, that's true. That's
Mm.
or
very
Street
true.
We
Fighter.
so we got the I'm not sure what it's one of the battle toads, the
Mm,
duck from Duck Hunt,
yes.
the guy from Excite Bike,
Exact
Hmm.
bike, yeah.
the black mage from Final Fantasy.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
We got
There's There's Zelda from
uh,
Legend of
Kirby.
Zelda. I know, I know.
no,
I'm
that's
throwing a
Link.
little bit of
Sorry,
shade. I know.
that's Link. Yeah, that's
I'm
Link.
throwing a little shade on
That's
people
Link,
who
Link.
Link.
are making that mistake
That's
constantly.
Link.
It's
Oh
Link
no,
from Legend of Zelda.
that
I
is
know, I
Zelda.
know.
Come on,
I know,
we
I know.
called him
People,
Zelda before.
yeah, exactly.
Uh,
When we were kids,
well,
it caused a lot of confusion. But yeah, in general, the way that it's presented is highly visually appealing, and it's really, it does say that it is the unofficial NES Famicom Visual Compendium. Now, take note that as a compendium, it does not purport itself to be comprehensive. It makes sure that it puts forward that it is not the be all and end all of everything NES Famicom. Because for something like that, I would imagine a book being not that thick, but about this thick probably. It's going to be as thick as Webster's unabridged dictionary. So
Mhm.
this one is the way it's presented is, of course, they're very nice to say thank you for purchasing the books, and it has essays on how those games were developed. If you can
Mhm.
have a quick look at the table of contents here, it's not comprehensive, but it does feature a lot of the games that we are already familiar with. Games like Blades of Steel,
Mhm.
Gundak, Devil World. Devil World is one of those games that we enjoyed in the Philippines and in the UK. I hear they enjoyed it as well, but I hear in America they did not. Here in America, people were not familiar with a game like Devil World. If you were not familiar with it, and if you picked up this book, you will be able to read a little bit about that game that the rest of the world was able to enjoy. Other games like Mega Man, it says right here, there's Ninja Gaiden,
Mhm.
Rad Racer, as it was called in the Philippines, I think it was Highway Star,
Highway
and
Star.
Highway Star, yes. And it's not at all comprehensive because it numbers, I'd say, about good close to 150 to 200 games, and of course photography. I once we leap into the book, it's going to be
Oh,
visually a feast,
Sir Joel.
honestly. Mm,
For Sir Joel and Sir Jomar, because I'm not sure
mm,
if they mentioned it on in the book.
ah,
Did they mention anything about what exactly was their idea on which games to include in this book? I'm
in
not sure if Sir
mm,
Sam Dyer is there in the chat right now. Maybe he can
mm.
answer. But
Mhm.
did they mention anything about how exactly they came up with the list?
And they did not
No.
have a they
No.
did from what I remember, they did not really do what's the right word for it, a criteria of
Mhm.
what got into the book and what didn't. I think they did an approach where it showed I would say maybe about an 80% list of the games that people are already familiar with, mixed in with about 20% of games that people might not be as familiar with. Games like
Yeah.
the Japanese what's
Yeah.
that? Hinotori Hoen. Yes, Jomar, go
Mhm.
ahead. You're about to
Yeah.
say.
What I saw in the book is
Hmm.
they included popular games
Hmm.
and
Right.
some of course popular games and some games with like how do you call that, like with some political issues, stuff like
Hmm.
that.
Right. Oh, you mean the controversial ones?
Interesting.
The
Other word,
controversial ones.
interesting.
Interesting
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
Interesting ones. Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
All right. So now I'm showing that it actually does show, because most books here in the West talk about the NES almost purely from the point of view of the Nintendo Entertainment System. The nice thing about this book is that it shows also the point of view of the Famicom, as we are familiar with
Hmm.
it in Japan. It shows the design of how the Famicom originally looked like as compared to the Nintendo Entertainment System, and it even covers the
This
family computer disk
system.
system. Yes,
Yes.
disk system.
Hmm.
It was one of those things. It does cover a few things about the disk system because of the fact
Rob.
that Rob, yes, it shows
Even
Yeah.
Rob the
how
robot is here. Yeah.
the fact that the disk system was a little was not very well known, but it did factor into the development of the NES Famicom. So an example right off the bat is one of the most popular games of all time, Donkey Kong. It
Hmm.
shows right there. You can see how visually impactful the book is.
Yeah.
Lots of color, lots of detail. It shows how Mario is going up the girders, trying to get I forgot the name of the girl in Donkey Kong. It's not Peach. I completely forgot. She's the mayor of New Donk City now
Ah.
in
Ah.
Super Mario Odyssey.
Oh.
Yeah, I
Was
forgot
it
her name.
Pauline?
Yeah,
Pauline?
I think yes, Pauline,
Pauline?
probably. Yeah. The thing about it, it does show that people. It does have small essays. It's not a full blown whole
Hmm.
page essay that would overwhelm you with detail. As Jomar says, it's the kind of essay that comes from the point of view of the actual player. More often
Hmm.
than not, I would say a good 50% of the essays here in this book are from the point of view of either a player who enjoyed the game or a developer who who gives insights on what what makes the game tick. In this case, in Donkey Kong, the description was made by, there it is, Dave Scott did provide it. It's Pauline. It's written, the essay was written here, Donkey Kong, by Wes Copeland, the Donkey Kong arcade world record holder. So there,
Mhm.
so you know that that guy knows exactly what he's talking about. And then of course, other essays come up, but of course the next one to be shown, one of my personal favorite games on the NES Famicom was Popeye, translated from the arcade. And this one is written by not a developer but a games journalist. He also, I'm absolutely sure, knows what he's talking about. It details how what the game is about in broad terms, and it talks about how the game is played a little bit. We're talking about not jumping into the details of like ones and zeros, bits and bytes of the game, but it does talk about how the game feels, and that's a very
Mhm.
good thing. Jomar, if you'd like to add something.
Yeah. So those summaries that the interview actually,
Mm,
it's so short. It's so short. It's sweet and short. Again, sweet and short. It makes you wonder and think, and then I would like to try that, stuff like that.
mm,
So
very true.
it's like they said something about the game. It's enough, but it's not. So I want to see it.
Mm, very true.
And what I like about the book is it's like you're weaving through tips and tricks, stuff like that. You you don't read first.
Mm,
Remember, I know Sergio, JDM,
mm.
Tito Joel. When you have a game magazine before, do you read? No. You look
No.
at the
Mm,
image.
No.
mm-mm.
You go through
No,
all the images. Nice, right? So actually, the this is the
we
second time that I.
we were like babies back then. Like we could care less. We could care
Uh,
less about the text.
yep.
Mm,
We like the colors.
And when you see an image
mm.
that you like, that's when you read,
That's
Yes.
when
right?
you
Mm,
read. That's
That's
the
when
only
you
time
read.
you read.
It's
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 true.
it's also it's also pretty amazing for me to see an Famicom that have label on it, on a magazine. The last
Mm,
time that I saw that kind of strategy was on a comics on X-Men, that they had black bird with labels on it. It's amazing, you know.
mm.
I was going through the pages and then looking at the image, and not just 1 second. I was just looking at it, and then going back and forth. This is nice.
It's funny you mentioned yeah. It's funny you mentioned about X Men. A little bit of a segue here.
Mm.
We know it's called the Blackbird, right?
Yeah.
But nowadays they keep calling it the X Jet, and I'm like, that's it's not the X Jet. It's a Blackbird.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
it's probably because of the fact that the SR-71 Blackbird is a copyrighted or trademarked brand, because it was based on the
Mm.
SR-71, and
It's it's the Blackbird,
It's the
and we know
blackbird.
fine,
it
fine,
will
fine.
forever be the Blackbird here. To us, it's always been a black. It's always been the Blackbird
Maybe
to
they
us.
just
Mm,
followed suit the Batmobile. It was a like was it
mm,
a Chevrolet or
The
uh,
mm,
Chevrolet, what the
uh,
first one?
the yeah,
mm,
the 1960s, but they just called it the Batmobile.
mm. That's
They won't
true.
mention any names
Because it's
or
gonna be
brand.
ugly if they call it the Bat Chevrolet.
Oh well, yeah, that's true. Okay, right now we're having a quick look at Ice Climber, a particular favorite of mine because of the fact that one of our friends on streaming Retro Gaming Times expresses a lot of frustration with this one. It's a lot of,
A lot of friendships that
yes,
were a
we're
lot of friendships
broken.
that were broken, that were messed up, that was fucked up by
Oh
the ice
yeah.
climber.
Oh, I completely forgot. I'm This is one of the things about the NES Famicom Visual Compendium. It's not purely like Joe says, like a magazine format, and
Mhm.
Jomar says that it's visual. Once you hit certain essays, it does enumerate histories about certain
Yeah.
things, like Nintendo being originally a playing card company, and how it kind of developed into what is now the video
It,
game powerhouse
it's
of
actually weird.
industry.
I never knew that Nintendo
Mm.
uh tried some business like a
Oh yeah.
love hotel.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Right?
Can you
That was funny. I was
imagine
like, what?
Nintendo Love Hotel? Like,
I
here,
mean,
or
I mean, do you?
you'll see Mario doing this.
Oh yeah, that's true. Or I
Can you
guess for you to
imagine?
last, I guess for you to last longer, you have to input the Konami code. Anyway. Oh my goodness. Well, there you go. And there's of course Excitebike. Things like this, it does show. Like Jomar says, it's very
Hmm.
much a magazine format. You take it in visually first, and I guess that's what defines a visual compendium. It hits your eyes, really. It hits your eyes with lots of colors. It hits your eyes with the kind of look that will inspire you to really stare at it and just absorb it visually. And it's a good approach to having the video games presented to you one step below actually playing the video game itself. So it does show all these popular video games like
Load
Duck
Runner,
Hunt, Load Runner, as Kung Fu,
Karateka, Kung Fu,
Spartan X, as
Spartan
it
Spartan
was
X.
X.
called in the Philippines, Spartan X. But here in the United States, it's called Kung Fu. I think it's because of the
Mhm.
fact
Kung
that it
Kung
was
Fu,
based
yeah.
on an arcade called Kung Fu. So
The
Spartan
balloon
X
it
is,
fight.
I think, it's Japan also.
yes.
Japan,
Yeah,
yeah, Japan and Philippines. Yeah.
Hmm. And of course, by far the most one of the most popular games of on the NES Famicom, Super Mario Brothers. In
Of
this case,
course.
surprisingly, it wasn't one of the developers that they interviewed. It was a guest reviewer, Ross Burnett. So I guess rather than having somebody technical jump into describing it on a bit by bit basis, they want the reader to be able to empathize or to relate to whoever is writing the essay or the short snippet about describing the game itself.
About that, Sir
Mhm.
Joel. So,
Yes, go ahead.
because we got Legend of Zelda,
Hmm.
and you got Super Mario's there and Donkey
Hmm.
Kong. You would
Yes.
think Shigeru Miyamoto would have made the cut uh
Hmm.
with the one of the people that they've interviewed.
Well, actually, no. I did.
Is he even there?
Yeah. Yes, he is actually. In this case, for a game as popular as Super Mario Brothers, it had to be Shigeru Miyamoto, and he's actually here as one
Mm.
of the essays. But some of the other popular games,
Oh, so
they
he's
have
there.
to.
Right,
Yes,
right, right.
they have to just. I'm surprised that they didn't take somebody who was actually one of the developers. Like in this case here, in this case, Ghosts and Goblins. Ghosts and Goblins, by far, one of the most popular
Hmm.
and hardest games
Hardest.
on
Hardest
the
part.
NES. Yes, on the NES or Famicom. They didn't get one of the developers to talk about it. They got Julian Rignall, a games journalist, to actually talk about it. In this case, it wasn't any of the developers. I don't recall who developed Ghosts and Goblins, but in this case, it was a small essay about um how the game is coming from the psychology of the protagonist. So I'm surprised that a game as popular as Ghosts and Goblins did not get one of the developers. But I guess it's an executive call. When you're reading through the
Hmm.
book, you're trying to make sure that you keep the interest of whoever is reading it,
Hmm.
because some people read from beginning to end. Some people jump from topic to topic. I would say in this case, like in Ghosts and Goblins, you don't want. There's been enough discuss about Ghosts and Goblins and about how hard it is, about how once you get to the very end of it, it turns out that you have to go through it all over again.
Yeah.
About how once you get hit once, you lose your armor, never to be able to get it back all over anymore until you turn into a
Once is
pile of
enough, god
skeletons.
damn it.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
So
Finish.
I know it's people that talk about this. I'm absolutely sure they already know about it. They got the point of view of somebody who wants to talk about the psychology of the game rather than the technical details of it. And that's probably the approach that Bitmap Books did with this one. And
Hmm.
I can't fault them for that. And it's a good approach. I would say, because of the fact that I'm the one of those people. When I read a book, it's from cover to cover, from beginning to end, all the way. And
Hmm.
I read each one because I appreciate the effort put in to every single article.
Mhm.
And I know that every single one is not going to be a banger. Every single one is if you can make it way too consistent, in terms of the text as to what it is, and you can expect that this is what it's going to say. Like, it runs in this number of bits, it runs in this number of colors, it took this long to develop, this number of years. It'll get boring. Whereas the way that the book is presented, the essays kind of throw it one from one point to the other, and it never gets stale. It's always interesting the way that it's presented. It's, uh, props to them. Jomar, what do you think about the way that the book is written?
Well, it's really good actually. It's you'll be able to see the difference between a um some person is doing a report,
Hmm.
and then just doing its own research.
Hmm.
On this kind of book, you you hear it straight from the developer itself. It's
Hmm.
different. It's like a if you've read like game magazines, right?
Hmm.
Those people were like reporters. So it's
Mm.
a secondhand experience that they're telling you. And then this one is much better because you see that the developers are also like us, that they
Hmm.
enjoy what they're making, and they enjoy also what they're playing.
Hmm.
So yeah, it digs into you that you compare yourself to them. Oh yeah, I had the same experience. So it appeals to the masses.
I made a mistake earlier regarding which game that I was talking about that did not have the developer in there. It slipped my mind. Super Mario Brothers had Shigeru Miyamoto, but in this case, Mario Brothers, the game that came before Super Mario Brothers,
Mm.
just as popular. It was very popular in the arcades as well. It only had Perry Rogers, the games journalist,
Mhm.
talk about Mario Brothers, the NES Famicom game. It did not have any of the developers talk about it,
Yeah,
which is a surprising call. But like I said, sometimes there's the approach to an article is best done from the
yeah.
point of view of somebody who actually enjoyed it and
Mhm.
who is not going to get into too many technical details of it, because the presentation, the gameplay is very straightforward. You don't have
Yeah,
to jump into too many details about it. Jomar.
yeah. It's really different when someone is telling someone else's experience rather than
Hmm.
telling its own experience. That's a much better
Hmm.
approach to this kind of books or magazines.
Yes, very true. And I guess in a way it's also like the magazine approach too, because you have a good mix of the developers
Hmm.
themselves talking in the magazines,
Yeah.
also the journalists who actually play the games. In a way, this is a very good throwback to the way things were way back when in the EGM days, Electronic Gaming Monthly days, when
Hmm.
you would crack open a magazine and you would have a good mix of technical details and personal opinion, I guess. There you go, Jomar. What if there was anything in the book that drew your attention? Was there a particular thing that really made you say this book is great? Was there something in the book?
Well, how can I say this? It's
Hmm.
basically it's the book itself.
Hmm.
It brings back memory. That's my first impression of the book.
Hmm.
Once I'd seen the PDF, I was honestly I was weaving. I was
Hmm.
going through all the pages, not even reading, and then I went back and then read. So
Hmm.
I would like to ask, was there any entry, or is there any entry in the book that kind
Hmm.
of made you question that game is not supposed to be like this, or you kind of questioned the interviewee's opinion about it? Like, do you think they got it wrong? Do you think they got it right, based on your personal experience with the games that they were talking about?
Well, me personally, I would say I did not run across in my read through of the book text itself any glaring or overtly erroneous information. I mean, there might be some information there that is not as accurate as it should be. Maybe there was some broad strokes or some facts that were glossed over. But honestly, I would approach it from the point of view of somebody who was casually reading the book and wanted to take a stroll down memory lane, because of the fact that it's not something that I'm in it as an auditor. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going in there as an auditor. I'm not going in there as somebody who's going to be who's going to be, what's the right term for it? Who's going to be nitpicking about.
Nitpicking.
Yes, I'm not going
Mm-hmm.
to nitpick the book in terms of the factual accuracy of the essays, because to be perfectly honest, with the mix of writers here, especially I would say about 50% games journalists, likely they're probably going to remember or write about things that they remember themselves.
Yeah.
And not
Mm,
everything that
right.
a games journalist is going to, not everything that a games journalist knows is exactly the way it actually went down.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like in certain cases, maybe somebody recounts a certain way that maybe people like Shigeru Miyamoto might have said something about this, but when somebody who was there working with Shigeru Miyamoto might say, "Oh no, that's not actually how it happened. This is how it actually happened." The games
Right.
journalist is going to relate the story of how Shigeru Miyamoto told him that story, not
Mm-hmm.
what the person who was actually working with Shigeru Miyamoto might say about how it actually went down. So I would say I'm not in it for the hyper accuracy of facts, but I am in it for the experience of enjoying a video game book and a visual
Right.
Yeah.
compendium of how I'm going to enjoy it. Sure, maybe later on there might be a little bit of a mistake or an error, and they can always come out with an errata page. Say, all
Mm-hmm.
right, according
Mm.
to we were mistaken. This came out in 1987, but actually it came out in 1986. Me as a reader, I am not going that kind of thing is not going to factor into my enjoyment of the book itself
Mm-hmm.
or the memories that I'm going to be enjoying while I'm reading the book. So it's like a tiny little thing that say, whatever. It's not really something that's it's not really something that matters in my experience or enjoyment of the book. It might matter to somebody who's looking for hyper accuracy, and I can't fault them for that, because if they
Mm-hmm.
want pure, absolute, unadulterated history of video games, that's a worthwhile effort and endeavor as well. And maybe someday in the future, somebody is going to write a book like that that is absolutely faithful to everything that happened in history. But as an enjoyable book, but as a book, it might not be as enjoyable to me if it focuses way too much on hyper accuracy or
Yeah.
on
Right.
absolute fact checking. Mm.
We got a question here from Sir Dave Scott. Sir JDM,
Mm.
if you please.
Yes, Sir Dave Scott is asking, the design and the art of the books are absolutely top notch.
Mm.
But how about the writing itself? Are
Mhm.
they at par with the best video game books out there?
Well,
What
let's
are the
ask Jomar.
what are the best video game books out there?
Oh my gosh, the closest.
Maybe Sir
Yeah,
Jomar can also answer
Jomar.
this one.
Jomar.
No, actually, Tito Joel can answer this one because he was comparing it to a new to those modern things, right?
Yeah,
No,
I
no.
would say.
I mean, in terms of the writing. How do you
Yeah.
find the
Okay.
writing of the
In
book?
terms
How
of
do
the
you
writing,
like the writing? Mm.
well, yeah, I do like the writing. I've been reading magazines like Marvel. It looked like that. It looked like game uh, game magazine. So yeah, everybody would enjoy it because it's not dull. For example,
Mhm.
this one,
Mike
Punch
uh,
Out.
Tyson's Punch Out.
yeah, Punch Out. So you're reading it, but would you read it first? No. You're gonna look at
Mm.
the picture back and forth, and then, oh,
Mm.
this is nice. So what is this picture
What's the story
saying?
behind it? Right. Right.
Mm.
Right. So that's when you read it, and then what you're gonna do? You're gonna weave again, and then whatever you see that looks interesting to you, you stop there, and then
Mm.
you look at the picture again, and then you read it. Um, the design of the art and and the text is, it's very aesthetic to each other.
Mm.
It's not a sore eye.
Yes.
Right.
I kind of liken it to the legend of the development of Pac-Man.
Okay.
The famous story is that they were trying to come up with the design of the protagonist, the Pac-Man, And one day they were sitting around having pizza, and somebody took a
Pizza.
slice of pizza, a slice off of the pizza. And when they looked down at the pizza, everybody said, "That's it. There it is. That's who Pac-Man is." I mean, that's a fun legend that you want to
Mhm.
tell everybody, and it's a great story. But it might not necessarily have actually happened like that. Maybe it may be the way it is some guy in a cubicle somewhere was just drawing on a graph paper, and kind of like in the end of it, this is how it turns out. It's not as exciting as something to read the way that that is presented, but
We
it
call it
is.
happy accidents.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
The way it
Lazy
happens.
happy accidents.
I would say sometimes I'm all for absolute facts when it comes to research, but when it comes to storytelling, sometimes you
Mhm.
have to make the facts kind of play around so that it'll be more enjoyable for the
Yeah.
reader itself. Now, if the
Yeah.
reader wants to delve further into how things actually happened, they can always do their own research some other way.
Right.
But yes, Jomar, I think you were about to say something.
Oh no, it's okay. But anyways, uh, like grade use. I don't know,
Mm.
Tito Joel. They're referencing
Yes.
Star Wars, right?
Yes, yes, that's true.
They, they were thinking of
They
what
were.
kind of game? Yeah,
Hmm.
grade use.
What
They
year
were.
did Gradius came out?
We just ran
I
across
mean,
Gradius
Star
here a
Wars
moment
came out
ago.
78.
70,
Mm.
But
Oh, Gradius
77.
was it was in the 80s, I'd say.
yeah,
Right.
so they were like referencing.
Mm.
They're thinking of something, and then they're referencing about Star Wars.
Mm.
So
Well,
when
it
you're a
kind of looked
reader
like a
and you
TIE
never
fighter.
knew, yeah, huh?
No, I was gonna say the enemies in Star Wars in Gradius, they don't
Mm.
look exactly like like the Tie fighters or
No,
Mm.
no,
the
No, no, no.
AT-ATs
Like
no,
here.
no,
or the Star Destroyers.
Oh, no,
Of
no,
course, they
no,
don't
no.
want to make it look like exactly
no,
like
no,
that.
no, yeah.
Mhm. Now, in this case,
Lawsuits up the ass.
like in the article here, for the world of the game, we were very influenced by science fiction
Mhm.
movies. The popular
There you go.
sci-fi movies at the time were
Yeah,
Star Wars
Star
and
Wars. Yeah.
Lensman.
Mm.
Lensman had just come out, and we were thinking about what
Lensman?
kind of get. Yes, Lensman. If that Lensman was an anime, if I remember correctly,
Oh,
based on a sci-fi book series, and it.
I know Captain
Mhm.
Harlock though.
Oh, Captain Harlock was amazing. Yeah, I do
I
remember
know
a
Captain
couple of
Harlock.
episodes of
Yeah,
watching
Captain.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
There you go. And that and that this is Machiguchi Hiroyasu already, the director of Gradius. Jomar was remembering that part of it about the fact that they were
Yes.
referencing Star Wars.
Yes.
Yes, continue, Jomar.
Because if you're for example you never heard about grade juice, right? And then you
Hmm.
read this article about grade juice.
Yes.
Uh, who doesn't know Star Wars?
Mm.
Once you read this, so they're referencing Star Wars. Let me let me check this out.
Hmm.
Stuff like that,
Of
and
course.
then there you go.
Mm. Very true. Very true. Here's another example that I can talk about in terms of discovering the new things from this book, from the NES Famicom Visual Compendium. I played this game, Labyrinth.
Mhm.
For those of you who are
Mm.
familiar with the Labyrinth movie with Jennifer Connelly and David
Mhm.
Bowie,
David Bowie?
one
Yeah.
yes,
What?
David Bowie.
Yeah, David Bowie.
Yes, when
With a big wig.
yes, with the big wig, exactly. And a lot of people, that's not the visual that people first gravitated towards when it came to David
I
Bowie and Labyrinth,
remember
right?
Labyrinth because of Jennifer Connelly's
Oh.
nips.
What?
She
Okay,
wasn't
there
wearing
you
a
go.
bra.
Oh, wait, that's she was what? I think 14 years old then. I think maybe 14 or 15 years old. Come on.
Statutory. Statutory.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the thing.
Holy
Labyrinth.
statutory, Batman.
I know, but
Hey, she
we were
wasn't
kids,
wearing anything
and
underneath
we were
that shirt. Come
and
on.
we were kids back then too. We were all also 14 years old
That's
Yeah.
around
it.
that time, I'd say. So, but then again, if you'd seen the movie, you enjoyed it a lot. You saw this game, Labyrinth, Mao no Make You played the game. It was played very differently from how you imagined the movie to run. Sure, it would hit the same story beats of the movie, like meeting Hoggle, Ludo, and Didymus, and Jareth suddenly popping up, David Bowie, Jareth suddenly popping up and taking away hours of your time because you make a
Unfortunately, Jennifer
mistake.
Connelly is not in the game though.
Yeah,
Aw.
that's true. I mean, her avatar is, but it's not her likeness. This is
It's
supposed to
not
be
her
her right
likeness.
there. Yeah,
No,
exactly. I mean,
I cannot make out anything in there.
I wish,
It's
I
just
wish it was her
pixels.
likeness. Yeah.
It's
So
just pixelated.
it's not. So the fact is, it's not just the most popular games. It's not just Super Mario Brothers. It's not just Donkey Kong. It's
Mhm.
not just Gradius. It's also the lesser known games like Labyrinth or like I said, Devil World. The games that never made it to the United States.
Yes.
They do feature here as well, and it's a really good it's a really good mix of games that you would probably enjoy. There's also the Namco feature. One of the companies that always admired
Mhm.
way back when was Namco. They have a nice write up here about how it started and how what games they produced. One of my favorite Star Wars games, one of the
Mhm.
hardest ones, honestly, was the Namco Star Wars, the Japanese Star Wars. It was
Japanese, yeah.
very different from the Star Wars that came out in the West, but this one was
This is much better.
so.
That actually that is much better.
I agree. I agree. It was also
But
Sweet
bonkers.
resistance.
Yeah,
is that the one where you fight Darth Vader and then he turns into a scorpion?
Precisely
yes,
that one.
yes.
I mean, once that happens, you think I don't remember this from the movie, but let's go with it.
Okay,
Did that happen in the
I
Technical
would ask
movie?
you,
limitation.
Sergio. I
Hmm.
would ask you, Sergio. Do you rather have that or a really bad gameplay the whole game?
Oh, that's true.
But Darth Vader turning into a scorpion.
Well, I would take that anytime.
No.
The, than the Western part of it.
Oh
The
yeah.
Right,
Western
right,
version of
Right.
the
Yeah,
Star
that's
Wars.
true. That's true.
right,
It,
right.
it kind of plays exactly into how we're talking about. It's not accurate to the movie, but it's
Mhm.
fun. It's the
Yeah,
same
it's
way
fun.
the way that it is with this
Was
book.
it though?
I mean, it was. I mean, there
Yes.
are certain things about the book that are not hyper accurate to how things actually played out, but the book is hella fun. Honestly, overall, of course, Contra. There's
Mm.
this. I agree with this guy's right upon Contra. I believe that there are very few perfect video games. I believe Contra is one of them. There you go. I
Yeah.
agree with that, Glenn. It's
It's
an
a statement.
illustration. It's a statement. It's not factual, but it is an opinion. And the fact is, the way people write here, you relate to how they feel about the video
Looks like a
games that they
penis with
played.
teeth.
I know, which is well, a nightmare, I guess. So there. So the way it is, the
A
way it's
biting
written,
penis.
yes, the way it's written is you
I
will
remembered something
enjoy.
again.
You will enjoy the book. You will enjoy the book as it is written. You will enjoy the book as it
Final
is laid out.
Fantasy.
There you
Mm.
go. You will
Mhm.
enjoy almost everything about the visual compendium of
Yeah.
the Famicom and NES.
Right,
So
Yes.
I would
And
right.
say, yes,
and
Jake,
guys,
Gideon.
it's not just the games that they're
Mhm.
talking about in the book. It's also the accessories
Oh yes, that's true.
and the third party. I think they had
The
an
Power
article
Glove.
about the
Hmm.
yeah, and
Hmm.
I think with Rob
The
Heroa.
zapper, the power glove, Rob,
Hmm.
Mhm.
Where?
the
Even
U Force,
Hmm.
the NEX Max. You know
Hmm.
the one with the turbo
Yeah.
buttons.
mm,
Oh yeah. Well, let's put it this way. We're not going to go further into the book because we promised that we're just going to show excerpts. But yeah, going back to the table of contents, you do have hardware photography. You have interviews with developers, with dream journalists, and you have a little bit of collection of box arts. And homebrew games and unreleased games for the NES and Famicom. So I say this is a good place to kind of put a pin on this already and tell everybody that the NES Famicom Visual Compendium, I would say, is a triumph in terms
Oh,
of a book that you might want to get for your bookshelf. Yes, Joe, you were saying.
Sir Dave Scott mentioned something here. I also
Mm,
remember in this game, if you open the gun port on your Famicom, then
mm.
shake the pins with the coin, you can skip stages. What game is that?
I'm not brave enough to try that because I'm always worried that I'm gonna get electrocuted.
What?
I have a bad relationship with electricity because
Well, I mean, there are only a few games in the Famicom
Mm,
that uses the zapper.
Mm.
I doubt that's Duck Hunt.
Well,
Star Wars. What?
there you
Is that
go. Mhm.
is that an
Star Wars?
EGM hoax?
It's like
Or
Was it?
is
shortening.
it
Really?
Oh,
an April?
It's like
Yeah.
shortening
Really?
the console.
Yeah.
Right. I did not know that. Oh, Reiki even
What?
says Star Wars. What?
Why?
oh, real. There
Why
you
just not
go.
use
Mm,
the
mm.
zapper itself instead of using a coin? You might get
No,
electrocuted.
because if you use the zapper,
You're
the pins
shorting the
are right
pins.
in the right place.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you have
Right.
to short
Mm.
it.
Mm.
Well, that again,
Yeah.
that's I don't want to
I
do.
did
I
not know
never want
that.
to do that because I have a very bad relationship with electricity. One time,
Right.
side story. One time, my brother was fiddling around with a lamp, and he says that he felt electricity through it, and when he touched it, he accidentally threw his hand up, hit me, and I felt the electricity run through it. So even if I'm not touching the electricity, I still get zapped anyway. So
Okay.
anyway,
So
that's it.
here's a public service announcement coming from the Timeless Gamer Show and Sir Dave Scott. If you're
Hmm.
going to do this on a Star Wars,
Yes.
okay, so if you want to skip some stages, wear a pair of gloves, thick ones, and then
Mm.
use a coin to short the pins on the Famicom zapper. Okay.
All right, Dave. I'll
Uh,
leave that to you. I'll watch you do it, and afterwards enjoy the gameplay. All right.
all right. Sir Ricky says it's true cause in the Famicom you need a third controller to execute a level skip code, but shorting the
Mm.
port using a coin will do.
Ah,
Unsafe, but hey,
Mm.
they will do the job.
Okay.
So before we close with the NES, to Sir Jomar and Sir Joel, how would you recommend this to those people who grew up with the NES Famicom? Sir Jomar,
Jomar.
Uh, one
would you
of
recommend
one.
it? How? Yeah.
Yes, one of one, like the One Ring. Yeah, go grab it.
Hmm.
Yeah,
I.
it's a recommendation for me. Actually I would love to get it
Mm-hmm.
because I'm fixing my basement. So I
Mm.
would love to have that on my basement.
Yeah.
Actually,
Jo.
I'm looking at their all their publications,
Mm.
and I want to buy them all.
Oh yeah, there's a
Yeah,
ton of great stuff that
There's a
Bitmap Books
lot.
has.
there's
Yeah.
a lot.
There's a
Mm-mm.
lot.
I
Yeah.
mean, just having a quick look. I'll let me just throw up their what you call this their
Their webpage.
yeah, their web
Yeah.
page. Let me just put that up there. From what I'm looking at, here, let's just bring this over.
Uh, for all of you guys listening, watching us right now, it's bitmapbooks.com. If you are
Mm,
interested in any of their publications whatsoever, any genre that you're in particularly fond of, they got
mm.
it.
I would
Yes.
agree because of the fact that the stuff that they have is just really top notch. They have the N64 Visual Compendium. Let me just jump forward. This is the CRPG book. I have that one, the computer RPG book. This is a guide to computer role playing games, and it's not just limited to a certain platform. It also includes the DOS era RPGs. The thing about the Joe is that you might want to check those out. I know you're a JRPG guy, but you might want
I
to
need
check
to
that
get
out
that.
too.
I
There
need to
you
get
go.
that as
Oh
well.
yeah, JDM, highly recommended.
For
Go
JDM, most likely.
go straight. The ultimate guide to side-scrolling beat 'em ups. Dan,
Beat 'em ups. Yeah, I
Dan
like
will
that.
absolutely love that one.
Mm.
And of course, we're talking about the art of point and click games, the games that weren't, the games that never made it to full production. It's also nice to think about it. And of course, this is Joe's a guide to Japanese role-playing games. He was very well pleased with this one. There's
Mhm.
also other books like the Sinclair ZX Spectrum, things that we Filipinos are not really familiar with.
Yes.
Certain computer systems like the ZX Spectrum, we only start to hear about it now, and we want to find out what software that it ran. This is a really good way to approach it, a way for you to find out. And of course, Metal Slug: The Ultimate History. If you're a Metal Slug fan, they've got it right there. My brother would love this one, The King of Fighters: The Ultimate History. My brother
Look
is
at
a
this.
huge
Yeah,
King of Fighters fan.
I've never knew that you can make a really thick book on just the
Mm,
history of King of Fighters.
I mean,
And
with the
And
Metal
number of
Slug,
games.
really?
I
yes,
mean, yeah, I mean, you'd be
this is
surprised. And of course, I'm too young to die. The ultimate guide to first person shooters. Ah, FPS games. I'm not
FPS.
I like the game genre. I'm just no good at it. So that's the same way with tactical RPGs, and of course, Commodore Amiga, Neo Geo Visual History. They've got a ton of great books. They've got a ton of great game books. Honestly, highly recommend that you check them out. And some of them are actually on sale now. You might wanna have
Yes.
a quick look at them. So you might pick up a few after Christmas presents for yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And so thank you for Sir JDM for sharing their website link right there on the chat. So we
Hmm.
can probably go now to the SNES segment of the show.
Hmm.
For the SNES, we got Sir Joel and Sir JDM who also did the SNES books. So let's
Hmm.
go with Sir JDM, and Sir Joel will share the PDF for the SNES book. So Sir JDM, what can you tell us about the SNES?
Actually, to be honest, I haven't read the SNES, just the NES. So,
Now, I
Just the
in our case,
pictures.
we sad to say it was me and Raymond Orendes who was actually teamed up for the SNES book, and Mr. Raymond Orendes could not make it today because he's at an event. We'll talk about that in event in a little while. But yes, I've read through the SNES book, and uh, right off the bat, I'm going to say whatever I've talked about in the visual compendium of the NES Famicom, it is just as good in this one, if
Hang
not.
on, let me
If
take a look.
Mhm. Sure, sure, sure. Go ahead.
So we got
Mm,
Ness from Earthbound. We
yes.
got Chrono from Chrono Trigger, of course.
Yes, of course.
Best JRPG, my ass.
Mhm.
Um, we got Luigi.
oh, for
We
once,
got
it's Luigi. Hmm.
yeah, it's Luigi. It's not Mario, right? Um,
Yeah.
the guy from Pilot Wings.
Yes. Hmm.
And then we got Vega or Balrog or whichever Street
Hmm.
Fighter you're accustomed with. We got
Yes.
Cyclops over there from the X-Men games.
Hmm.
You got Toad from Super Mario, Mario Kart,
Cart.
Hmm.
Yeah.
and you also got Donkey Kong from Donkey Kong Country.
Hmm.
And then uh, is that the ninja from um Hagane?
Probably. The thing about it is, there's also
I
the
think
eye
that's it.
from
Yeah, I
There's
think
also the
that's
eye
the
from
ninja
Indiana
from
Jones, and of
Hagane.
course on
Yeah,
the upper right there's the Earthbound kid.
Mm.
There you go.
yeah.
The thing about I would say the nice thing about it is the unofficial SNES Super Famicom Visual Compendium Guide. You're talking to somebody who has okay in the chat, so somebody Reikyu
Break
did
you.
say I might as well put it up. Saying Chrono Trigger is the best RPG will summon Derek of RGT. It's true. It's true. Very true. The thing about it is, you're talking to somebody who never had a Super NES, who never had an SNES in his entire life. I've only played SNES games when I went to Green Hills in the Philippines to rent the console for 1 hour at a time to try out the games that are there.
Oh.
During that time, during the console wars era, I had a choice to buy either an SNES or a Sega Genesis, or a Mega Drive. It was as it was known in the Philippines back then. I bought the Mega Drive because of how impressive it was when it popped up, like the Shinobi, the game. Now,
In
unofficial.
our case, Sir Joel,
Mm,
back in the during the console wars of the early '90s,
mhm,
either you buy the SNES
aha,
or the Sega.
mhm.
I chose food because I can afford those, and
Mm.
I'm better off living.
Mm, of course, of course. Now, the thing about it is, I'm approaching this as somebody who's never had an SNES, although I have played certain SNES games. So I'm approaching this as somebody who is discovering all these amazing games for the SNES Super Famicom, and I am floored
Oh.
by how many games there are. This table of contents, I know it's not a comprehensive list of SNES games, but I'm absolutely floored at how many games there are, and factoring in, let's say, about out of 1,000 SNES games, maybe about only 15 or 20% of them are potential classics. That's still 200 games that I'm probably going to enjoy for the rest of my life if I ever get the chance to enjoy them. So the list, of course, there's a tremendous number of supers here, right there. You can see the name super, 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 super.
Oh
But
yeah,
yeah, but
a very
they
good naming
really
sense coming from Nintendo.
leaned into
Put super
the
in anything.
there you go. They really leaned into it. Of course, the format is the same way. It talks about how the 16-bit revolution happened after the 8-bit era was winding down. The 16-bit revolution, a little bit of history here. I'm absolutely sure there's going to be a few inaccuracies there because we are all familiar. We had a previous episode called the Console Wars here in Timeless Gamers Show where we discussed the book by uh, Blake Harris. Am I remembering correctly, Joe? Was that right?
Yeah, when we
Hmm.
did console wars with Black Harris, which
Hmm.
also Sir Dave Scott was also a part of.
Yeah, there you go. That's it, Dave. You're gonna be
A
appreciating
quick
this
shout out
one.
to Sir Dave.
Yes, there you
Yes.
go. There's an essay here about how things turned out when it came to the SNES, and that afterwards it just jumps straight into the games themselves. So games like F-Zero,
F Zero.
same format. It's not every single write up is by a programmer. Some of them are written by guest reviewers and game journalists. Super Mario World. We're showing excerpts here, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. We're not going to show the entire book, but we're showing you how Super Mario World, also, of course, Shigeru Miyamoto is also there talking a little bit. Also, Toshihiko Nakago, the programming director. So it is almost the same format as the NES Visual Compendium. Very much magazine style. Pilot Wings, very special game to me because Joey gave that to me, and it. I would say it's almost as if uh they saw how good the NES Famicom Compendium came out and decided why mess with what works. I would say that's the exact correct thing that you should do. If something works, don't fiddle around with the formula because it works. People like it. People want to buy it, and people will consume it. And it's a good way to keep people interested and buying the things that you are selling. So in this case, games like Super Tennis, UN Squadron or Area 88, East 3, Wanderers from
Oh
East.
my God, East Three.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There you go. There are splashes, pages, entire pages of how the games look like. Little factoids about the when it's first released, like 1991. The developer Nihon Falcom and the publisher being Sammy, and of course the person who talks about this is going to be Koji Okata, the graphic artist. So it's a good way to present the games that, especially for people like me who have no idea about how deep the library of the Super NES is. And it whets my appetite. I really, after reading all these write-ups and seeing all these pictures, I do want to jump in, like like open up my Super Famicom Classic over there, and then just play through whatever is there because I would say of the thousands of games I've played in my lifetime, I would say I would probably count maybe only about less than 5% of them are Super NES games, and that is to my regret. Honestly, I just wish that I
Uh,
had gotten more into it. Yes,
a
Joe, go ahead.
question. A question to Sir Jomer and Sir JDM. So looking at the book
Jomer.
sample, the PDF right now, what
Hmm.
Sir Joel
Uh,
is showing us right now.
Hmm.
okay.
Any of those entries that made you remember some of the games that you played? Sir Jomer first.
Okay. Yeah. So well, I'm on the NES, right? But you gave me also this the PDF for this one.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
I was uh going through the pages, and yes, there's a lot of game that brought back memory, and there's also a lot of game that I'm getting interested in. So
Hmm.
now I'm thinking of grabbing those original games and looking for them, and then grabbing them for myself.
Hmm.
Sir JDM.
For me, I haven't really played SNES. I back in the 90s, I didn't even know there was NES and Mega Drive. And looking at this book, um, yeah, it looks colorful as well. It's much clearer than the pictures or the photos that they had in the NES because of the better graphics. Because thank you 16-bit era.
Yes.
Yeah, it's much more. You can see the improvement in the graphics department, and it also now right now it appeals to me. I tried Final Fantasy 6 and some other games like Pilot Wings. I tried Pilot Wings because I played Pilot Wings 64. Then before they transitioned to the 3D, they had Pilot Wings on the SNES, and they're applying real life physics in the game that was made in the earlier days of the console. So
Mhm.
yeah,
In regarding with my experience back in the mid 90s, especially in the Philippines, the NES Famicom was still on full swing.
Mhm.
The Super NES came out at 95, and during the mid 90s, especially with the rental shops back home in Manila, in the
Mhm.
Philippines, the NES is still quite in full swing. And for a good chunk of that time period, like Sir JDM, I really didn't realize there was an SNES. So
Mm.
for what little that I know about the SNES, it only revolved with a few games like
Yeah, Final Fight, yes.
Final Fight 1, 2, and 3,
Street Fighter.
Street Fighter 2, Mortal
Yes.
Mhm.
Kombat 1 and 2,
Uh-huh.
and Super Mario World. And what else? I mean that's all really.
Yes.
Uh, and not until just recently when Sir Dan dared me to play Chrono Trigger just to put the argument to sleep, saying that Chrono Trigger is the best JRPG out there. After I played Fantasy Star 4 on the Mega Drive, he said, "Okay, now you played Fantasy Star 4 on the Mega Drive. Play Chrono
Mm.
Trigger in the Super SNES, just to compare yourself, mate." I'm trying my best to do the Dan Faulkner accent here. Uh,
Oh no, that action is very unique, I have to say.
it's very unique. So, how about it, Joe? Try after trying Fantasy Star 4 on the Mega Drive, see if you like Chrono Trigger on the Super Nintendo, and see if you believe that it's the greatest JRPG ever made, mate.
Why? That's a pretty good approximation, actually. Yeah, that's a pretty good one. Yeah. Oh
I
my
like. I
goodness.
mean, well, I did play Chrono Trigger. I liked it.
Mhm.
Is it the best JRPG ever made? Maybe at the
Eh.
time, sure.
Mhm.
actually,
Well,
Sergio was still fortunate because back when I was living in Novaliches, I only see Mega Drive and arcades. I
Mhm.
didn't even know that there was an SNES because
mm,
one of our like my uh cousins, if I remember, he's the one who introduced me to the Mega Drive. So I didn't know that there was such a console, 16-bit console. So I was stuck at that and arcade. I didn't
mm,
even know that there was an SNES. I just I know N64, but I didn't know that there was like an in between NES and N64. Then
mm,
that's when I realized there was SNES. So I missed a quarter of my life
mhm.
not not learning about the SNES. So
Same
Sergio
thing
was
as
still
Tito Joel
fortunate.
was saying,
Mhm.
we were in Manila, right?
Yeah.
So we have those consoles on those rental shops. But
Mm-hmm.
then, like Sir Joe was saying, that also is uh, SNES have those fighting games, stuff like that. Uh, I never uh, s- tried NES, Super NES, like
Mm-hmm.
like Genesis, like what I have with Genesis. Because why? Because of the games. For example,
Mm-hmm.
I do like Michael Jackson,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
right? So whenever I go to the computer shop, I always sit there and play Michael Jackson because of the those like dungeon crawling or RPG like. So I've never seen some RPG on SNES. That's the reason that I did not get into SNES before.
Well, I have to admit, the one thing about the Super NES or the SNES or Super Famicom, sad to say, mm, it came across as what's right. I don't even want to say this, but um, the console wars were still very much in effect. Were very much in effect back then, and
Mm-hmm.
marketing wise, Sega really positioned themselves as the mature gamers console already,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of us really got into the idea that we're already beyond 8-bit. We're already beyond the kid console. Now let's get into the real mature stuff, which is the Sega Genesis. And that's not a bad thing. But also corollary to that, we lost out on the other console, which was the Super NES, because of the fact that it was perceived as having a lot of kiddie
Yes.
software, a lot of games that are geared towards the young audience. And now
Yeah.
that looking back at it, it was very deceptive because of the fact that it might look like it's a kiddie software, but
Yeah.
honestly, a lot of it is really good stuff, like ActRaiser.
Yeah.
ActRaiser
Yeah.
is a serious game. We're talking about a game that is that has you as the personification of as the avatar of a divine being going down into people's into the human level and fighting monsters, and that's really religious heavy stuff, and
Yeah.
that's seriously interesting things that we missed out on because of the fact that we thought it was a kiddie console. And now I'm starting to discover it, and I am
Yeah.
going to delve into the Super NES library because of the SNES Super Famicom Visual Compendium. Thank you very much,
Yeah,
It,
BitMap
yeah,
Book.
uh, if
that's why we need this kind of publication before,
Yes.
because if you're just gonna go to your local computer shop and then you see what they have, you're
Mm,
not gonna like it, right?
yes.
Their collection of game collection. But if you had this, you
Hmm.
like, oh, there's a lot of stuff that's really cool on net SNES.
Completely agreed. Yes,
and
absolutely.
I would like to point out, especially with our non-Filipino viewers, listeners, and especially
Mm,
with Bitmap Books, we are
mm,
because the Bitmap Books are more catered to the Western audience. Us doing this show on a Filipino outlook, on a point of view of
Mhm.
the other side of the world, who, for the lack of trying, not for the lack of
mm,
trying, getting into the library as much as possible with the Super Nintendo. Us in Asia.
mm,
We usually get our games from Japan mostly, especially with the Famicom, especially with the late '80s and the early '90s.
mm,
Famicom, Japan, Nintendo. Yeah, they're a little bit more closer to us. So for all of our childhood memories, it's all about Nintendo NES, Famicom. What
mm,
with the Super NES, they're more catered to the North Americas, South Americas, and even Europe. By the time it reached to us, it was like what 10 years after the fact.
Yes.
So
mm,
we are just so our opinions about the games and the book per se might
mm,
be a little bit different from what you are hoping for, because it was a different time for us. It was a different circumstance back then
Mhm.
for us. It,
mm,
we were hoping that Sir Viraj and Sir Dan, our timeless gamer panelists coming from Britain, could have joined us here because they could have shared a few experiences in regarding
Yeah.
with the Super Famicom because
Mm-hmm.
they're more Sega guys than Nintendo guys anyway. Although that being said, they also did enjoy Super Famicom games in their own right. Would have been
Mhm.
nice if we could have had them in this episode for a more diverse exchange of opinions in regarding with the entries of the book itself.
Yeah, but the nice thing about it is there's always the chats later on, and of course, in Timeless Gamers Show, a Facebook page, they can always post their opinions. And it's not just limited to the show itself. People can talk about our discussion here with Bitmap Books and whatever games are we're featuring in the
Uh-huh.
chats in a later date. Well, I mean, that's the wonderful thing about the internet.
Yeah, and for example, we have a chat here from Reiki who says
Mhm.
NBA Jam and NBA Jam Tournament Edition on the SNES will always be special for him.
Mhm.
Was
See,
there any difference between the two? Like, I mean, is the guy still saying he's on fire?
Boom shakalaka.
Boom, shak-
Well, that's
see,
that's the thing. I think
the
tournament edition has more players, like
uh,
more lineups to choose from. I think that's the thing. And I remember playing NBA Jam with a buddy of mine, and he accused me of being Bakao with the ball. Bakao being somebody who
he's
just holds
see,
onto the ball and doesn't
a
pass
ball
it to
hog.
anybody. Yeah, a
I-
ball
I-
hog.
I- a ball hogging. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry to have to say this, but I was very much a ball hog when it came to NBA Jam.
yeah,
Oh,
Before
here's the
there
thing.
was before there was NBA Jam, there was double dribble though.
Oh
double
yeah,
dribble.
double
Yes,
dribble.
that is
Yeah.
from
From the
uh
Famicom, NES.
Famicom. Yeah,
Famicom.
Yes, yeah, that's
yeah,
true. I mean, nothing compares to the hype of you doing a dunk
yeah. You can
in double
dunk.
dribble. Yeah.
Yeah, you can dunk from the 3 points.
Yes.
From the three
Yeah,
point line.
yeah, from the
Yeah.
three point line.
Well,
They
that's the
are
thing.
they were flying.
It was a fun time, and I guess to kind of close it out, the SNES Famicom book is a really good way to introduce people who have not really delved into the SNES and Famicom
Mm,
library, especially this game, Evo, Search for Eden. It's semi educational. It teaches kids about evolution and how a microbial cell can go from a tiny little thing to a gigantic dinosaur in the future. It's a
Yeah, we
fun
call
little
it
game.
Seaman.
Yeah, that's true.
Who
I do
decided
remember
it?
Seaman. Yeah. Well, it's the fact is this book is a good way to do it, and thanks to Bitmap Books, a book like this that deals with games that we have not had the chance to encounter and games that we are already very familiar to us is presented in a very visually appealing format. Again, Bitmap Books, the unofficial SNES Super Famicom Visual Compendium, highly recommend the highest quality publication. Really good quality book. You would be proud to have this book in your bookshelf. And we're talking not just about the Western audience here. Asian audiences, I'm absolutely sure, will absolutely love to get these books because this is not just about this is not just something to show off to your friends, something to reminisce by yourself.
That's true.
It is a good way to teach younger generations. One of the purposes of Bitmap Books, according to the website, is games preservation, and it tells about how Bitmap Books wants to contribute to the effort of remembering these games and this artwork, this art form, so that it's not lost to time.
mhm,
So this is a really good way of doing it as well. Mhm.
I would also like to add that with Super Nintendo and Super Famicom,
Mhm.
because there's a lot more memory that the developers can push in
Mhm.
there. They
Mhm.
can push more a lot narrative, meaning
Mhm.
they can push a lot more story, more
Mhm.
text. If
Mhm.
you're living in the Philippines, most likely you're gonna get the Super Famicom, which the games
Mhm.
will be coming out in Japanese.
mhm,
Yes.
So
Mhm.
unlike the NES or Famicom, where
Mhm.
you just plug and play, you don't have to read anything just to get the gist of the game. With
Mhm.
the Super Nintendo, they introduce a lot of text and game mechanics that you really need to read all of those texts just to know where the fuck you're going, just to know the fuck what that you're supposed to do, unless you read the
Mm.
manual. But who
Mm.
reads the manual, right? So unless you have unless you're one of those privileged kids back then,
Mm.
you have some relatives in the United States that will just ship you out like an actual Super NES console, and you'll be able to play those games and
Mm.
English localized games. Then you're good. But
Mm.
not a lot of people, not a lot of kids back in Manila are quite fortunate in that regard.
All right, so I guess that we can close it out by saying the Bitmap Books unofficial SNES Super Famicom Visual Compendium is well worth the time, money, and effort to invest in. It's really a good way to introduce yourself to the things that you never enjoyed or that you might
Oh,
have forgotten. Oh, there you go. You were
Master
about to
Jet
say, John.
from Shuffle Emporium
Yes.
asking, does it have a physical copy?
It does. Yes, it has a physical copy. Highly recommended. If you are the kind of person who wants something for posterity's sake, for preservation, definitely get the physical copy from Bitmap
Always
Books
buy
website.
physical, guys.
Do you
I
have the
To he-
physical
agree.
copy,
to
Tito
hell with
Jomar?
digital.
Mhm. Yes, you were about to say, Jomar?
Do you have the physical copy?
They have the physical
No, no,
copy,
you,
and
They have
you.
oh, me, not yet, but
Yeah,
I
no,
am
yeah,
definitely buying it one by one right now. I'm starting off with the
mm,
NES and SNES books,
yeah.
and of course the point and click books because of the fact that
work
the
their way up.
yes,
There,
working my way up, and I might get the books that I never had any experience in because of the fact that the SNES Super Famicom book showed me that there's a lot out there that I've never experienced yet, and there might be something that I might enjoy that I've never heard about. Thanks very much to books like this. There you go.
Just make sure
and
that you have the shelf space
Yeah, that's
for
true. There's
if
physical
you
also
have the
that.
copy.
shelf
Yeah.
space. Oh, and especially if you're not living in Florida.
Oh
I
yes.
mean, God knows they're not banning these books.
Yeah. All right. Joe, back to you.
All right. Thank you for that, guys. So we will. So on the second half of the show, we will play another video review from one of our panelists, and this time it's not a PDF but an actual bitmap book that he got from that he actually purchased, and he's willing to share his thoughts about that particular bitmap book that he got.
Mhm.
So here he is. What's up, everyone? This is Joe RPG with another video for you, and this time we are going to unravel this special package right here that was just delivered to me as of today during this Christmas season. And the contents, well, I believe that every JRPG fan should have in their collection. So let's open this baby up and dive right in. And as you can see, what we got here is a guide to Japanese role-playing games, which is a big book actually, as you can see right here. And it's oh boy, it's a pretty big book. It's quite a heavy book actually. And according to the packaging, the weight is right around 2.66 kilograms. I got it from a website called fishpond.com.au, and the price was 136 Australian dollars. And it's from BITMAP Books. Welcome to the world of Japanese role-playing games. Video role-playing games adapted for computers from their pen and paper forebears have been around since the earliest days of digital gaming. Introductions right here by Kurt Kalata and a lot of contributors. So right here on the next page, we got what is a JRPG, some colored pictures, a history of RPGs in Japan, localization, soundtracks, anime, of course. Japanese role-playing games and anime sometimes go hand in hand. Attack and the Throne God, remakes, oh boy, there are a lot of remakes. Japanese PC RPGs, there are quite a lot actually. If anything I can say about this book, it's a tome, like a very big tome, an encyclopedia of all Japanese role-playing games released in the very beginning of things. So for all of the JRPG fans, you're going to spend a lot of time flipping through the pages of this book. It's going to be a good read, especially to those who are not really familiar with the earlier and the obscure Japanese role-playing games. So it's quite interesting on how they arranged the book. Sometimes they would arrange it in alphabetical, sometimes they arrange it in chronological order, and sometimes they would arrange it according to their theme, according to their franchise, and according to their subgenre. And another thing about this book is that they allocated sections for the big JRPG companies. So it says right here, you got Falcom and their releases of RPG games. YS, Legend of Heroes, of course Enix and their Dragon Quest before the merger with Square. Of course, Final Fantasy by Squaresoft. It goes without saying, Final Fantasy should be here. And then of course you got Shin Megami Tensei and its spin-off Persona by Atlas. I am really impressed with the way they compiled all of these. Next we got Namco's Tales of series, and at the making of this video they haven't included Tales of Arise yet, so that's fine. Star Ocean, well, yeah, Star Ocean by Tri-Ace, because I thought Star Ocean was published by Enix. Of course, you got Valkyrie Profile. You also got your Chrono Trigger, another main staple from Squaresoft, Chrono Cross, Xenogears, the Xenosaga Trilogy, the Xenoblade Chronicles, and of course the classic Mother or the Earthbound series. You got Phantasy Star, which was Sega's answer to Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy during the 8-bit and 16-bit era. I am loving this book. I mean, I'm just flipping through the pages and I'm just enjoying the photographs. Holy shit. We got Lufia, Lunar, the Breath of Fire series, Super Mario RPG also made the cut. Of course, Grandia, Wild Arms, and the fan favorite Suikoden, Kudelka, Shadow Hearts, the Atelier series, oh boy. Legend of Legaia is also here. Oh, Rhapsody, Baten Kaitos for the Nintendo GameCube, the Dot Hack series. Mega Man also made the cut, like the Mega Man Battle Network, it's here, and the Mega Man X Command Mission. Oh, Evolution for your Evolution is here, originally made for the Sega Dreamcast. Blue Dragon for the Xbox 360 and the DS. Lost Odyssey for the 360. Last Story for the Wii. Eternal Sonata for the PS3 and 360. Arcrise Fantasia, exclusive for the Wii. Golden Sun, a fan favorite for the Game Boy Advance and DS. And a cult classic, The World Ends With You, originally made for the DS. I mean, there are a lot of stuff here, guys. I mean, seriously. The Artonolico, series is here. The Neptunia series here. Of course, it goes without saying Legend of Zelda should be here. It's a little bit debatable whether or not it should be considered as a role-playing game or not. The Mana series is here. Terranigma. Castlevania? Huh. Well, it's debatable. Castlevania. Especially Symphony of the Night. Fire Emblem, of course. The Shining series. The Super Robot War series. The Landgriser and the Growlancer series. The Front Mission series. Disgaea. Oh, Valkyria Chronicles, yay! Holy shit, son. Of course, Pokemon should be here. Digimon. Monster Rancher. Holy shit. Monster Hunter Stories. Jade Cocoon. Oh, I remember Jade Cocoon. So all in all, with the index from the very first page, it's 652 pages in total. So to all of you JRPG fans, I really recommend getting this book. I mean, just flipping through the pages alone will give you tons of fun and entertainment. One of the good things about this book, you can use it as a reference guide to those titles that you haven't got already in your collection. So that's it, guys. So this is the book, A Guide to Japanese Role-Playing Games. I mean, just look at this thing. So if you happen to like the video, give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you soon in the next video. Bye bye. Oh my God! Thank you for that, whoever, a kind citizen. Thank you, thank you for your very honest and very authentic
But
shot by shot reaction towards the JRPG book released by Bitmaps.
it's so authentic, Sir Joe, that you're like a
Mm,
kid showing it to your friend and then showing all the games.
Although,
and
and the presentation, it again from Bitmap Books in that book is top notch. It looks like it's
yeah,
really worth really worth the investment in time, money, and effort for it.
Yes, yes.
and with so the way they and because well, now that I know how they conduct their composition here, so they, with the JRPG book, they did a different approach in comparison to the NES and SNES, because with the way they approached it, it's either by company, by chronological by chronological release, by subgenre as well. So, and like I mentioned, if you're one of those JRPG collectors who are curious whether you should play or buy said games, if you can still afford it, it's a very nice reference, a very nice reference guide, just to see if this said game is worth getting or not. And mind you, uh, it didn't really cover all of it, because there's a lot of JRPGs, well, a lot of role playing games that were just released in Japan only, and so a lot. There are a few JRPGs exclusive, well, Japan exclusive RPGs that I know that were not included in the book, and I can probably understand why they did not uh, choose to include those, because like you guys mentioned, they just included the popular ones and the ones that had critical
Look
acclaim into
interesting,
them.
yeah.
Look interesting, critical acclaim, and financial, and the most with the financial sales upon those games.
Mm.
And yeah, so that's the JRPG book. And for the last PDF bitmap
Mm.
book that we're going to talk about is the click and point games. And for the click and point, we got Sir JDM and myself doing the click and point games. And I would like to get Sir JDM's opinion on this because out of all of us, he's the most. He's probably the better suited for the computer click and point game. So, Sir J, take the floor.
All right, so I'm going to talk about the art of point and click adventure games for uh, these are mostly for the PC, and uh, I've read through the book, and it's um, well established. You have developers interviews. Um, you got information on how they develop those point and click games. To quite summarize it, uh, if you're not familiar with point and click games, um, these are the games that you need to examine the specific objects on the screen, and you take a look at the objects or the environment, and depending on the situation you need to uh, literally point the cursor on that object and click on it, and it will help you progress with the story, or maybe interact with the object or the person that's in front of you. And this is the roots of this point and click genre in the 90s is from those text-based adventure games that you need to type in a specific command like go north, go south, grab this lamp, open your inventory, something like that.
Otherwise
And
known as Zork type games. Mhm.
yes, the sort type games. And what was improved was the use of the commands and uh, graphical interface of what you can see on the screen. Instead of your imagination working, you can actually see on your screen for the first time what's going to happen if you click on some object, or if you go to this place. You can now have the visual representation of that those objects and the environment that you're heading to. And for the developers, the ones that were interviewed, let me mention some. David Fox from LucasArts, one of the most prominent point and click game developers back in the days.
Mm,
Was LucasArts with Full Throttle. You got the Indiana Jones series,
mm,
and we also have Eric Shahi,
mhm,
who made Another World and Future Wars. And this one is a bit of like the sci-fi genre of the point and click games. And you also have Allo for Missions with Larry. Of course,
yes.
those are the most prolific game point and click game developers during that time. And
Mm,
it also had it had a couple of like 100 games in the genre, but
mm,
sadly my favorite games, point and click games, haven't been mentioned. But
I'm
I'm
curious, JDM, what is your favorite point and click game?
one of my favorite point and click games was, I think I've mentioned it a lot of times
Mm.
in this podcast. It's Sanitarium.
Oh
One of
yeah.
those. It's a horror sci-fi themed point
Mm,
and click games.
Which is
And
weird because when I got into the book,
mm,
they were able to reach up to the 2000s,
yes.
and
Mm.
sanitarium was not mentioned for some reason.
Well, I'm presuming that they weren't able to get a hold of anybody to, like
Mm.
maybe one of the developers, one of the journalists that reported on it. So, I mean, they could have gotten a guest reviewer, but
They could have
looking
get
at,
Sir JDM to do that.
yeah, that's true. But
Probably.
looking at the content of the books themselves, this book seems to be very chock full of actual developers, of the
Mm.
actual developers of the point and click games, and it doesn't seem to skew towards the games journalist section anymore. It looks like it
Mm.
really leans into the technical aspect of it. I mean, from my quick glance of it. Anyway, continue, JDM.
Yeah, as what Ninong Joel was referring to, I was actually curious to check out all the games on
Mm.
the in the contents, and like in the NES and SNES where they like place a brief description and their experiences with the game. I was actually expecting that, but I did not, because much of the book was from the interview that they made with the developers of the game, and I really like that because I had a computer background, and I liked how these developers I like how they describe how they made those games, especially during
Mm.
those times that um, programming was not that easy, because back then you have basic, you have
Oh my
um,
gosh, spaghetti code, basic.
Very, very
Okay.
very limited memory capacity. They were
Mm.
yes,
doing it like with a lot of floppy disks, like those floppy floppies and those small
yeah.
floppies.
And if if you're not familiar, basic is like, was it the third generation, because they back in the 70s they had COBOL.
Oh yeah. Mm-mm. COBOL
I
is still
think
being
that's,
used today. Mm-mm.
yeah, in POS systems, I guess.
Mm-mm.
Yes,
Yes.
And
it will make you
uh,
crazy.
mm,
Yeah.
because programming back in the day is you need to type in a line, like numerous lines of code just to do this specific action. Right now you have Python, you have uh, those
Object-oriented
other,
programming.
yes,
Mm. Yeah.
that you just like type in, print this lines of text, then that's it.
No, we're talking like this is hardcore early year stuff. I mean, I remember a legend that since I digress here because during the early days of computer programming, Steve Wozniak, the guy who programmed the Apple II, if I remember
Mm.
correctly, the original computer did not have any storage, did not have any memory, did not have any way to store the code. So every morning Steve Wozniak had to input the entire operating system from memory in from his brain into the actual computer before the computer could actually run. That is hardcore stuff. I can't even begin to imagine how
And
how things were back then. Mhm.
right, and back then we don't have scanners. What now, you can just write a piece of code, like print it, then
Mm.
if you don't want to type it in, you just have to place it on a scanner and scan it, then the
Mm.
machine will try to read it. And now we have, then it became back then it was floppy disks, you have those CDs. Back then it was really, I can't say primitive, because you, when you say primitive programming, it's those machine codes like the 1001, something like
Mm.
that.
Oh, that's assembly language already. That
Yeah,
we're talking
yeah,
binary already. Okay.
yeah, it's binary language. So also in this book, they, although it's quite technical, they did what they did is um they added a glossary actually on the earlier parts of the book, where they describe terminologies of computer, not really in general, computer games in general, like this one,
Mm-hmm.
like copy protection or the cutscene. Back then we
Mm-hmm.
call it movie or clip.
Mm-hmm.
but it was, and it also, yeah, it had bitmap. If you're not sure what a bitmap is, it's a style of video game graphics that are built using a series of colored dots called the pixels.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so technically bitmaps, the one that you see on the NES, SNES, those are bitmaps, the pixel image that you see on the screen. And some of those words in the glossary are, I didn't even know about them. That's the first time that I heard them. I know, like the feelies. What is it? Was it called feelies? Let me see.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look.
Feelies. Yeah. The feelies is like the extra objects that you that came in with the bundle, like the shirt,
Oh.
the
Mm-hmm.
manuals. I didn't know that it was, maybe it was fillers for us,
Mm-hmm.
the fillers, because I just remember that this book was made in published in the UK. So maybe there are terms here that didn't apply to us, but it has the same meaning.
Now this is more jaw speed right there. Anyway.
Mm. And you look at the graphics of the PC games, right?
Take
It,
note, this is the
oh, yeah.
VGA remake, okay, ladies and gentlemen. I can see our viewership numbers jumping up rapidly right now. There you
So
I would like to request. I would like to request a motion. Uh, Stop scrolling. Keep it
Okay,
there for now.
all right, right there,
Keep
we're
it there.
good.
Keep it there for now.
I mean, look at it; they're going up right now. The numbers are like. Anyway, continue. Go ahead, JDM.
right, so yeah, so that's it. And also, let's see here on my notes. I have my
Facebook,
If you
YouTube. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. This is legal.
yes, this is
yeah.
art. There you go. This is
This is art.
this
These
is
are
Yes,
fair
not real
use.
people.
yes,
Yes, there
video
you go.
games are actually art,
Yes,
if you ask
absolutely.
me.
Completely agreed. Completely agreed. Hmm.
And
This,
speaking of these screenshots that we're seeing here, the screenshots from the game are strategically placed. They look good.
mhm.
Strategically, yeah, that's right.
You can
Stra-
have the look
for the
and
lack of a better word, strategic. Yeah, strategic. Yes.
and not to compare it with the SNES and NES, it looked pretty good because these PC
Yeah, they
games
do. Yeah,
are
they do look good.
in,
Yeah.
the resolution is much more higher
Yes.
than the ones
Mm,
that we see on
mhm.
the SNES and the
Bet
NES,
your ass it
especially in
is. Yeah.
context.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
I
Continue,
can really see
JDM.
the. I can really see the pixels.
Oh my goodness. Okay, fine.
All right, so
I
let's
mean,
go ahead to,
no more. I'm imagining it.
Mhm.
yes.
It's right there.
Although to interject though, the thing about it is the VGA graphics. It was almost like painting a canvas. Painting on a canvas already, an oil painting on a canvas, as compared to console graphics back then. I'm not quite sure what the resolution of console graphics were. I think about 320 by 240. I could be wrong on that
Yeah,
one, but
240p.
yeah, but we're talking about VGA graphics, which was already 640 by 480. The artists had more to work with in terms of space, in terms of color, in terms of how the shadings are done. It's it is quite amazing what they were able to do with artwork back then, and
Yeah,
also
they're
one of the
amazing.
reasons also one of the reasons why a lot of people in that era could say that the PC games were way ahead of console games in terms of visual presentation anyway. Gameplay. Mhm.
It is very visual presentation.
All right, JD, back to you. Go ahead.
No, with all due respect to Bitmap Books,
Yes.
they knew what they were doing with this,
Oh,
and
absolutely. Yeah.
I applaud for them for having a spreadsheet,
Mm.
a spreadsheet just like this,
Yes.
and screw being family friendly. This is a PG-17 book right now.
Yes, that's true.
It's like it's like the centerfold of like
Mm.
adult magazine that we
Although
and
to be fair though, PC games were very much I guess skewed towards the adult section of the gamer industry already, because these are the people who knew how to manipulate PCs, drives, memory, RAM, soundboards, things like that. So it was to be expected that games that on the personal computer were targeted towards the more mature audience. So
Yeah,
back
yeah.
the
to you,
reason,
JDM.
Tito Joel, before
Mm,
PC games,
mhm.
because computers are it's a tool for adults.
Yes,
Mm.
that's true. That's true. Mhm.
Yes, and then kids doesn't have any access to it. If you have a
Mm,
computer at home before, during the
mhm.
80s, most likely it's your mom, your dad is using, or your
Mm.
uncle.
Yes, that's very true. Mhm.
Yeah, and
For those people who are watching us right now, the screen just froze there. It's not our fault. It just happened. It just froze
I know
there. All
it's
right.
like
We can,
I might have to reboot later, but anyway, continue. Yes, JDM, go
we,
ahead.
we're not doing this on purpose. It's just stopped.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, Kuya Jom was right.
Mhm.
We had these computers personal as a personal experience. I remember suddenly it's all coming back to me. I
Mhm.
remember one time my mom was asked to work overtime, so
Mhm.
she need to um, go to work Saturday.
Mhm.
Then I remember her asking me if she could if I could join her in the office. Then she brought me to the office. Then she showed me this PC. I'm not sure which unit it was, which machine it was.
Mhm.
And I remember playing a game that's similar to Pac-Man, where
Mhm.
instead of ghosts, it had spiders. And I guess that's the first time I was introduced to the computer, uh,
Mhm.
to
PC gaming,
a
yes.
PC gaming.
Mhm.
And not long after that, I saw this when I was back in elementary school. I went to the library, then I saw these computer magazines. Then I scanned through it. It those This book reminds me of those computer magazines that I saw back in the day, where I saw Ultima, I saw June, I saw the Lemmings, and that's the time I got interested with PC gaming and computers in general. And not long after that, we had our own personal computer at home. We had a Pentium too, if I remember correctly. It didn't have the graphics card, but it played a lot of games, especially DOS and early Windows 3.1 games. And I was like mind blown. Then I saw that's the time as well that I discovered these point and click games like Sanitarium, and one of my favorite point and click games, it's called Black Dahlia. I remember it because it's kind of a mystery game. Like
Mhm.
it's
Is that
like
is that a Black Dahlia from the murder mystery Black Dahlia?
Yeah, it's not exactly the story of the Black Dahlia, but it's about the um it's about the Nazi
Oh, okay.
revolution that's going on during the uh, I think in the early 40s or 30s in the
Oh, again,
US.
Nazis, of course. Of
Yeah.
course.
Like there's a group of Nazi conspirators in working underground in the US. So it's a like
Right.
a action mystery game, and
Oh,
one thing I remember, it starred Dennis Hopper. It's like an FMB, what you call it,
Mm.
the FMB movie, but you still have the visual, the graphic, like the office, your because your character is a
Mm-mm.
detective working for the COI.
just like what they did with Wing Commander,
Yeah, it's
like
digitized. Yeah.
like the digitized movies like that.
Yes, it's
Here's
a
a perfect
FPG.
example of how adventure games, PC games in general, were targeted towards more mature audience. This game is called Dark Seed, and the artwork is done by H.R. Giger. You know, you can't possibly show something like this to a console audience during that
Mhm.
era. The alien type of monster tearing open somebody's head and exposing his brain. So that's,
Yes.
that's
Mm.
that kind of thing is not
It's
something
pretty.
that you
That's
would
pretty
see.
graphic. Yeah.
Mhm,
Mhm.
yes, it's
Mm.
not something that you can see in a console game of that era. This was 1992, so I that would be the Super NES. Yeah,
That was before ESRB. So yeah, I mean,
yes. Hmm.
can you
Mm.
imagine if that was released for the consoles? Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
Because because console back then it's considered as toys. Actually,
Hmm.
they
True.
are
Mm.
toys, and
Hmm.
PC are work tools.
Mm.
One thing I noticed about this book, it is arranged chronologically. It's very different from the way that the visual compendium of the SNES and the NES was. This is arranged by year, and it's arranged by the certain kind of games that came out. Like this one is about 1990 to 1993. If we jump forward into the future, into the latter parts of the book, you'll see like 1994, and then games like the Broken Sword series,
Mm.
I think that was 1994 series, Scooby-Doo Mystery, which came out in
Scooby-Doo.
1995, and the Dig was a great LucasArts game back in 1995. So it's a good, what's the right word for it, tour of point and click adventure games through the years. I was not assigned this book, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm gonna sit down and read through it,
Mhm.
because I'm a huge adventure game fanatic as well, and DOS game era aficionado as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, back to you, JDM.
So, right. I really enjoyed looking at the pictures and reading through the interviews that they had in the book. And
Hmm.
uh, it's just sad that I didn't see most of the. Uh, this one. This looks like.
A
This
full
is
motion
similar
video game.
to
Mm.
the Black Dahlia game that I was talking about. And by the way, Black Dahlia, it starred Dennis Hopper.
Hmm.
oh, from the Super
Yeah,
Mario movie.
yeah,
I
and
mean,
Space Troopers.
King Bowser from the Super Mario movie,
But
the 1992.
but it's not the oh
Oh, oh, oh no! Suddenly our screen just froze again.
unexpectedly.
Our
Oh my
screen just
god.
froze again. I'm sorry, guys. We're
Okay.
having some technical issues right now.
Stay tuned. Technical
and
difficulties.
This
and
is brought to
what's
you by BITMAP Books, by the way.
and um the thing with PC games, you have this the although it's much more powerful than the console games, it still had this animated console like feel, like the
Hmm.
pixel artwork. But what made it much more appealing to adult players is it had those full motion videos which look much more realistic, and it's like watching a movie.
This one in particular is very
Mm.
special because this one is the Last Express and it uses rotoscope technology.
Mm,
Guess
mm,
who did it? It's Jordan Mechner, the same guy who did the Prince of Persia series.
Oh.
Rotoscoping is a
yeah.
very special technology where you capture the actual movements of actors back then and put graphics on top of them, like
So like full
mhm.
motion video, like full motion capture.
Yes, exactly, like
Yeah.
The
full
earlier
motion capture.
versions of like early versions of motion capture. Yeah.
Precisely, yes. This
Mhm.
one was a very special one, and Jordan Mechner is very, very proud of this one, The Last Express. If you guys are interested in a great adventure game, point and click adventure game, this is the one to play. Also, Blade
and
Runner. There you go.
mm, and I think that captured the like cinematic feel of these games
Mm,
because of the rotoscoping and the animation. Because when you're playing SNES or the Famicom, the motions are so fluid, especially when you're playing platformer games. Most of the games run in 60 FPS,
mm,
and this one it's much more cinematic. It adds like a cinema feel to the games that you're playing, especially these adventure games, point and click games. It's not fluid, but it it adds to the cinematic feel, and I
Right.
think I that's missed.
yeah,
This
that
one
was
is Grim.
Grim
Riven.
Fandango. This one is great. This another great adventure game, point and click adventure game. Grim Fandango. You can't find
Grim Fandango.
somebody. Yes, you cannot find a DOS or Windows adventure game fanatic that has a bad opinion of Grim Fandango. This is one of the highlights of the adventure game genre. Give it a try.
And I think these computer games in general, um, like expand what they call this. It made the console developers develop games that were point and click as well. So it's not when you say point and click games, it's not solely for
Daria.
on the
Daria's
PC.
Mhm.
there. What is
Yes.
this? Beavis and Butthead or just Daria? Oh no, that's this is
Just
Daria.
Daria. It's a game
It's
called
Daria.
Daria's Inferno. Yeah.
Daria.
Oh really?
Yes.
There's a clicking point of this?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah.
For all
I
you
did
90s
not.
kids, you
I
might want to
love
check it out.
Daria. La
Mhm.
la
There
la
you
la
go.
la la
This was
la
a
la la
MTV
la.
production, right?
I think
Like
Yeah.
so.
Beavis and
Yes.
Butthead. Yeah.
I think so. Let's
Yeah.
see.
Mhm.
Yes.
And yeah, so going back to the point and click games, when you say point and click games, it's not just for the computers anymore or the PC. Some of the console developers are also trying to um, make games, point and click games for the consoles. Like um, in Sega, you have those FMV games as well, right?
Yes. I think
And
Sewer Shark
yeah,
games like Sewer Shark and things like
yeah,
that.
they like it made the console game developers like, hey, why can't we make a game, point and click game on a console? So I think that influenced them playing when maybe when the console developers are like taking breaks, they discovered, hey, have you checked out this game? Then they play it, then they got the idea that hey, why don't we make these games for the consoles as well?
Mm. There's the thing about adventure games. It's much different from JRPGs or RPGs, Joy. You don't build stats. You don't build your what's the right word? You don't build the numbers on your character. It's very much finding out what works in terms of your inventory, in terms of your environment, and moving the story forward. And that's the whole point of an adventure game. Whereas a JRPG, there's the min max aspect of it, where you kind of grind, where you want to make sure that your character is as strong as possible before it faces off against the dungeon rat. In this case, it doesn't matter if you're at the beginning of the game. It doesn't matter if you're at the end of the game. You're always looking for that one thing that'll activate the next
Yeah.
the next the next part of the storytelling. I guess that's the most prominent feature of adventure games. It's the storytelling aspect of it. So for an
Yeah.
RPG gamer, that's the big difference between the two. And
Actually, the
mhm.
adventure game, Tito Joel, is
Mm-mm.
um they make they make your focus on the story.
Yes.
Mm.
So you're playing it. You don't have to worry about anything, and you just need to to know the story to finish the game.
Yeah. Build relationships in Leisure Suit Larry.
Yeah,
I
building relationships. Yes, yes,
Relationships. Okay. Another nice thing about
relationships.
this game is that it encompasses a lot. We're talking about in 1994 all the way to 2021. The adventure games are not as prominent now as they were before. Way back when adventure games were the biggest thing in computer gaming.
Yeah.
Now it went down for a little while, but now it's starting to have a little bit of a revival. Lots of games are coming out as adventure games, and I'm kind of glad for it. This book, though, does encompass a huge number of years, and I would say, as a book, might not be as not well, not might not be as what's the right word for it? Might not be as able to consume in bite-sized pieces. The same way that the NES and Famicom, Super Famicom games were. Of course, you can still flip through it and then find lots of great screenshots of the games and little snippets and everything. But the heart and meat of this book, I would say, would probably be a little
Oh,
something for Joe before we go.
Oh
uh,
no, the screen just froze
Oh,
again. Oh my god,
look
no.
at that pixel.
Mm.
It
I
is
mean, it moves.
super.
It
pixelated.
I mean, it moves from here to here. There you go. So, the heart and soul of this game is the interviews with the developers. I would say those
I can
are
see
the
her
things.
heart and soul right now.
Fine. There you
You
go.
know, Tito
So,
Joel, what's the best
mm,
combination
yes. What?
just to have
Hmm.
the bitmap, this book and
Uh-huh.
GOG
Oh, completely
Mm.
agree. GOG with the good old
and this book.
games.com
Yeah.
website. Yes, completely agreed with that one. Good call, Jomar. Yeah, it's the fact is, good old games. That it's a great website where you can delve into a lot of the games that are featured in this book. So, I mean, back to you, JDM. Sorry for interrupting.
Right. So that's all my take for the book. How about Sergio? What
Yeah.
do
Oh,
you think? Yeah.
well, with the little time that we have,
Hmm.
I'll try to keep it short.
Okay.
So when I say to hell with the people saying praise the master race, PC, which is PC,
Yes.
I'm only talking about the toxic fans
Yes. Agree.
who are saying that. However,
Mm-mm.
that being said, when I was able to read this book, I have found a whole new respect towards the PC games
Mm-mm.
because of how the technology evolved and how the developers had to be the pioneers, starting a revolution from simple computer programming based out of text-based adventure games into something digitized like this, and how through the years expanded, evolved, and developed into something more robust and simplistic. Back in the days of when you're controlling everything through the keyboard without using a mouse before Apple came out with the mouse. And I I don't have any personal inkling in regarding with clicking point games or PC games um, in general. I did, but so it's a weird choice why I chose to cover this book.
Mm-mm.
But as a video game history enthusiast, I am though curious on how things started out and how things progressed.
I have a
with this
question,
book,
Sergio, before you continue.
yeah,
Do you remember your first PC game?
the first PC game that I played was Aladdin.
Okay.
I'm not even sure if that came up with. I'm not sure if it's Windows or is it an Apple computer, but I did remember it was. I'm not sure if Sir JDM and Sir Joel might know this. What is the
Mm.
Aladdin came out for the PC?
Let's see. I do remember.
Which PC was that?
uh,
Because all I remember I was using a keyboard, not a mouse.
mhm.
Keyboard, not
Um,
a mouse. So it should be on DOS, most
mhm.
likely.
Most likely in
IBM.
DOS.
Yes.
Right. And that was the only computer game that I played. And then fast forward to year 1996, 97, Half-Life, Counter-Strike. That's it. And
Mm.
and
Ah,
Red Alert. Talking about click and point, Red Alert, Command and Conquer. So
Right.
and with this book, so like Sir Joel mentioned, it is arranged in chronological order
Mhm.
and taking into account their interview. Mostly it's all about interviews. They didn't really show the way they presented the games were through the eyes of the developers themselves on how they were contracted to the studio, what was the origin of the game, how was the production and the development working on that studio, and how it impacted the industry as a whole. Not much was explained in regarding with gameplay. Yeah, every now and then, some of the interviews you'll see some excerpts about how the game is being played or what kind of game engine that they developed for that said game. But
Mhm.
for someone who didn't really play any of these games, I have no clue. So I have to take their word for it.
Mm.
So and if you're not the kind of person who are into these games, then yeah, all if you're going to if there's anything, you'll just enjoy looking at the pictures because when they're talking about their time developing the games, they can be very technical. So if you're the kind of person who likes who have a PC, a computer engineering background, or a info or an IT background and like video games, you might understand what they're talking about in this. You might understand what they're talking about in this particular game.
Mm.
That being said, not all of the game developers here knows exactly computer lingo. There's one of the developers like Police Quest. The developer was a former cop. He did with no computer background whatsoever. He was able to develop a video game by himself. He was able to develop a video game out of what he knows about police procedural, and then somebody else had to help him code the game itself. So just because what I learned about this book, just because you have a different background or a different career, doesn't necessarily mean you have nothing to contribute in developing a video game, right? And what else? And there are a lot of excerpts here that were mentioned by the interviewees that really caught my attention. Like, for example, back in the day, you got Lucas Arts and Sierra, basically Nintendo and Sega of the early '80s in terms of PC, the click and point PC games. And Lucas Arts, you would think that it's owned by George Lucas, so he's into video games. No, he could not give a rat's ass about video games. It's just a it was just a sub company under his name. He could care less about video games. Doesn't even play video games. But you know who plays video games? Apparently, it's Steven Spielberg. Right after when they did Indiana Jones and uh, the Ark of the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah. So when George Lucas and Steven Spielberg collaborated when they did Raiders of the Lost Ark, apparently the story was Spielberg kept on going through the studio just to see what the guys are coming up with, and he's the one badgering them so he could play the latest games from LucasArts Studios. stuff like that. Oh, and not to mention, I figured, so because I don't know much about the games that being discussed through the book. I said to myself, just to have that kind of personal personal attachment towards the games that they're talking about. How about I play one of the games that they're mentioning? So I played Maniac Mansion, the original one, that came
Ugh.
out in 1985 for the very first time, a few days
Mm.
back. And oh my god, it took me 10 minutes just to move one person around. Mind you guys, so Maniac Mansion came from what? LucasArts, if I remember correctly. You don't This was a time when the mouse was not even a concept yet. So you are supposed to move each character using the directional keyboard,
Mm.
directional buttons on your keyboard.
Yes.
And out of instinct, I kept on using my mouse or my mouse pad just to move the characters, only to realize, oh shit, I'm supposed to move them with the arrow keys. God damn it! So it took me a
Mm.
while to work the gameplay, but I did manage eventually. But every now and then I will still go back to my mouse, and it made me realize how hard it was back then, and
Mm.
how I took the mouse for granted, especially with the click and point. Because by definition, you click and point. You use a mouse to click and point, not using the directional buttons and point. You know what I mean? You're not
Yes.
clicking anything. It's pushing and pointing. Um. Anyway, at least there was that. Um. There were some. There were a lot of notable interviewees here, um, and especially with because we always keep mentioning Leisure Suit Larry in this podcast. So I was curious about Al Lowe's story on how the game came out to be, and how people tend to circumvent the the authentic. Am I supposed to? Is it right to say password protection
Mm.
or adult authentication?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Call it software authentication, copy
Software
protection. Yeah.
authentication.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
because back in those days, everybody can just copy whatever games using, uh, because
Floppy
everything's
drives.
on a floppy drive. You can
Mm.
just copy it. But for people, for games like Leisure Suit Larry, especially on the earlier games,
Mm.
Allo devised a mechanism, or to be specific, a bunch of questionnaires in there, just to prove that you are a adult, not a kid, playing Leisure Suit Larry. So all of those questions were designed to be answered that only an adult would know, not a kid would know. Although, and I'm
Or
like, and
or
I'm
the
like,
kid would have to come to an adult
his
like his
parents,
parents and
yeah, yeah,
ask, and the
ask,
parent would say, either would take it as a teaching opportunity, or say, why are you asking these
why are you
questions?
asking this random ass questions, right? Oh, no reason, Dad. I'm just playing Leisure Suit Larry. Oh, what game is that? Oh, it's an
Yeah.
educational game. It's an educational trivia kind of game. It's just
Exactly.
asking a lot of random trivia
I mean,
questions.
I'll have to say this about Allo. He has a wicked sense of humor from everything that I know about him.
Hey, PC games were supposed to be educational back then, yeah.
Yes, agreed.
So it's over 500 pages. So 500.
Mhm.
It's almost between
Mm.
500 600 pages
Yes.
long.
Hmm.
It's a bit, and it is quite a read, and not necessarily a big quite of a read, because a good percentage of the book is just pictures, like
Yes. Hmm.
screenshots of those games, and
Hmm.
sometimes you will go 3 or 4 pages of pictures with no text, and then
Hmm.
like, for example, page 65, and then page 66, 67, 68, 69. All of those are just pictures, and then and then by the time you reach page 70, then the text will go back, will come back, and then so if you're going to be reading this, it might um, on a summer afternoon with nothing else to do, you might probably finish reading this like maybe within a week. If you're going
Mhm.
to take word for word, if you're going to read this word for word, sure.
Mm.
Uh, but for those people who are not really into PC games as a whole, maybe the pictures might interest you just to keep you sticking in reading the book. I would probably this is the kind of book that I might recommend to Sir Dan, to
Mm.
Miss I, Sir JDM, and Sir Joel,
Mhm.
especially because
Well,
because they are the ones who are really into PC games
oh yeah.
anyway.
The thing about it is every book that we've gone through right now, the SNES, the NES, NES, SNES, and point and click books look like they've been designed so that you can jump in and out of them. Choose a
Mhm.
topic that you're interested in, choose a year, choose a game genre, and like look for something interesting to read, and you can jump right in without having to have read any of the previous chapters. It's not a straight flow of a storyline of a narrative. Each one you can jump in as a separate article, much like a magazine. And
The actual book themselves, ladies and
mhm,
gentlemen, they have their
yes,
own like a red strip bookmark that you
Mhm.
can
yes, it's a
use.
yes,
Mm. So
that's
you
it.
can
So
just pick up where you left off. Yeah.
exactly. I would
Yeah.
say it's for to the quality of the books that Bitmap Books is selling and the price point that they're selling it at. You're getting an absolute bargain. It's a steal.
Mhm.
I
It's
would say if you're at all
reasonable.
interested. Yes.
The price that they're asking for all of their books is quite reasonable,
Yes.
only because of the
Mhm.
quality of the product, the research that they did. You can
Yes.
understand why they're asking. I mean they're not cheap. I mean they're over $100
Mhm.
US.
Mhm.
But if you are into video game history and you like reading literature, if you really want to delve on the history and the history of the games that you played back then and now, then
Mhm.
hey, it's a nice. I'm not gonna. Well, it's not necessarily a like a tableware book
Mhm.
that you just flip around just while you're waiting for your name to be called on the DMV or something.
Yeah.
No, it's a good display. It can be a display piece, and
Mhm.
it's also a good read as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Actually, the price for the books are really fair because of the work
Mhm.
that has been done to it.
Yeah.
Um,
Can we let's show the graphic of their website in
Yes.
regarding with the books in their inventory at the moment, Sir Joe, if you could
All right. Let's just
me.
bring that up one moment. Let.
Because when I bought the JRPG book, because I had to when it was first released, it was sold out in on their
Mm.
website, because this is a JRPG book. And say
Yeah.
what you will about the JRPGs, there were a lot of fans of the genre, and the first week when it was first released, it was sold out. So I had to outsource it to a Australian online bookstore so I can have
Mhm.
it.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, even the book that you have with you right now, Joe, the Guide to Japanese Role Playing Games, it's $46. Let's put shipping at about 15 to 20 bucks. That's still a very good
yeah,
value for the
yeah.
for
It's a
the
fair
books that you're
price.
getting. It's a very
It's
fair price.
and it's not paperback, guys. It's
Oh
like
no,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
it's
it's a
yeah.
very
hardbound.
heavy. A hardbound copy. It's very heavy, at least 500 pages thick.
Mhm. If you're kind of hesitant to jump into the deep end first, they have some they have some books on sale right now, like the Micro Machines collection, Micro but
Oh,
Many. If you're at all
nice.
interested in Micro Machines, they're on sale today for $33. You save six
I
bucks.
would grab that. Yeah.
And like I said, if you're interested in a particular topic, like the computer RPG book or the art of point and click video games, the art of point and click adventure games, I would say they're great value for money. So I would probably I'm in my case I'm going to save up and I'm going to get the ones that are that are in my line of interest, and even the ones that are not. Um, Dave Scott has a question: are
There's a
the books
question.
hard to order in the Philippines? No, they are not. Actually, if you, I know that Bitmap Books ships internationally, but we'll see. Who knows? Maybe Bitmap Books and Timeless Gamer Show might be able to have a little bit of a
Maybe
conversation. Mhm.
maybe Sir Dave Scott is asking if it's like available locally, like for say National
Yeah.
Bookstore
Oh, not just yet. If I remember
or
correctly,
No.
something
I
like
don't
that, like
think so.
like or National Bookstore, something like
Mm.
that.
Is
I don't
PowerBook
think
still
so.
a
Yeah.
thing? Is PowerBook still a thing in
Yeah.
the Philippines? Oh, it
Yeah.
is. Okay,
Power
then
Power
books
Books
is
is
in.
still a thing. Yeah, Power Books.
okay, maybe. So maybe PowerBooks you might check that out. But if you ask me, I think ordering straight from Bitmap Books is also a really good option. They ship
They ship
internationally.
worldwide, as far as I know. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Worldwide.
they ship worldwide. And worst case scenario, again, if Timeless Gamer Show has a nice little conversation with them, who knows? We might be able to provide it locally as well.
Tell you what,
Fingers
Sir
crossed.
Dave Scott, uh, if if Sir Sam Dyer and the guys in Beep Map Books like what they are seeing in this episode, maybe they can provide us like a discount promo code.
Yeah, that
Use
would be
you
wonderful.
you, you use the word timeless when you order out when you, when you ship
There you
when you ship
go.
out.
There
Hopefully,
you
hi Sir
go.
Sam.
Cross fingers. Cross fingers. Thanks very much, Bitmap Books.
Use the promo code, our very first
Yeah.
promo code.
There
Mhm.
you go. All right. I think that covers everything. I think we can close it
All
out.
right. Thank you for that.
Oh,
Oh,
I think
okay.
Joe experienced a little bit of a technical issue. Let me.
Some of,
I'll just.
there
Oh,
you
there
go.
you go.
Some of the
Sorry.
bitmap books. There you go. Internet connection and all that.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, here
Oh,
we go again.
Again.
it's
Well,
like
yeah.
singing. Look.
I know he's very much in the karaoke mode right now. Yeah, so I'm sorry to have to say that Joe is experiencing a few technical difficulties, but
Mhm.
yes, we would like to say thank you very much to Bitmap Books for providing us with review copies of the books that are available that we presented to you right now. It is a small sampling of the books that they have in their roster, and I would highly recommend checking out their website, seeing if something is up your alley, something that is that catches your fancy. And it's always a good thing to delve into the history of the hobby that you're enjoying, because the more you know, the more enjoyment you'll get. uh, I think Joe might be a little might be back right now. No, actually he's not. So
Oh, there you go.
yeah, there he is. Okay, there you go. Joe, go ahead.
Shameless plug.
Okay, shameless plug time. All right, so I'll go first. I might as well go first. You guys can catch me on the Twitch channel Banyagang Native and on Kick.com under Banyagang Native. I stream occasionally. I do a variety of games, retro games, a lot of them, a lot of modern games as well. Surprisingly, a lot of retro games now. A lot of games that some people might consider modern are also retro now. 10 years ago, it's not. 10 years ago is not 1994. 10 years ago is now 2014. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, just keep that in mind. So that is my personal cutoff for retro games. So I'm streaming those games as well. So you can find me on Twitch and on Kick under Banyagi Native. Just type in Banyagi Native. You'll find me there. Hashtag FUFB. All right, on to you, Chomar.
Oh, yes. So, Drummer, you can find me at YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick. I seldom stream right now, but I did stream last night. I was playing a beat 'em up dungeon crawling game. It's called Nobody Save the World. It is interesting. It's an indie game. And it's nice. So yes, of course, Shuffle Emporium. For your collection needs or TCG needs or toys, go to Shuffle Emporium. It's a part of ROI with Tito Joel, Sergio, and Mod, and Tito Popoy, and Jet, of course.
All right, and your turn, JDM.
Yes, one day markets of 123 Go Retro. You can catch me on Facebook and Twitch and YouTube. I was recently streaming a lot of wrestling games. I just came back from my short hiatus, and hopefully I could return back to my regular streaming schedule. And I hope to see you in my next streams. Hopefully I could hook up the my old retro PC here and play some point and click games, so you would be able to experience what was those games, what the genre is back in the 90s. And I hope to catch you guys soon.
All right, and Joe. Joe seems to be
Yes, yes,
having technical difficulties. All right. Well, I guess that's it for the show. Thank you again. Thank you very, very much to Bitmap Books
There you
for
go. There you go. I think
thank you
this
very
is
much to
coming.
Bitmap Books for on the final home stretch. That's when sometimes people trip and smash flat on their face. But we keep going whatever happens anyway. The show must go on, especially here
Yes.
in Timeless Gamers Show. So thank you very much, JDM. Close this out. Give us the tagline for Timeless Gamers Show.
okay, so let me just
I can probably do it. So
Yeah,
our
go
Okay.
games
ahead.
and our okay. So our games and our bodies may grow out of date, but our gaming experiences will forever remain. Hey,
Timeless.
timeless.
Timeless. All right. See you guys again next time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye.
Thank you, Bitmap Mooks.